today sucked. The heat was relentless. No clouds, just a harsh, biting sunlight that poured down like someone had decided spring needed to be cranked up to 11. People loved it. Honestly, on days like this, humans turned feral, grinning like idiots and taking over parks in big, noisy packs. And then the cafeteria thought it'd be cute to celebrate the season with some kind of exciting herb and spice extravaganza. The whole building stank like roasted garlic, tangy pepper, onion, rosemary, paprika, and something sour enough to burn the inside of Adrian Mercer's nose. He wanted to scream. Campus didn't act like it was a regular school day. It felt like the start of vacation. Everyone was giddy, loud, and everywhere. Laughter bounced around the quad. People ripped their shirts off. Windows flew open. Some joker was blasting music from one corner. Most people lived for this sort of weather. Not Adrian. For him, it felt like a personal attack. The sun started working him over the second he woke up. Even behind tinted glasses, every shiny surface just punched beams right into his skull. Then his stomach turned at the cafeteria stench. He ditched lunch instead of risking it. His throat felt cracked and dry. Swallowing was annoying, not just by midday, but always. Honestly, all he wanted once afternoon classes dragged to a close was to get home, pull the blackout curtains tight, down a freezing drink and pretend the sun was a rude neighbor making too much noise. Sunny days and demi-vampires just didn't mix. Light sensitivity ruined everything. All those heightened senses humans thought were glamorous just meant spices were always too much. Garlic, on its own in normal amounts, amazing. Humans never bothered with moderation, though. They seasoned food like they held a grudge. Most of the time, he swore it was personal. The one nice thing? Heat felt good, actually. Most of the time, he was cold. His hands were freezing. His skin never picked up a real human warmth. He used to joke he was part lizard in front of his classmates, like it was funny instead of weird. Anyway, forget everything you've heard. Coffins are a myth. Holy water's a joke. And literally anyone dies if you put a stake through their heart. Those creepy legends. All invented by drama queens who were bored and had too much wine. His mom was a real deal, pure-blood vampire, converted nearly 100 years ago. His dad was human, but apparently planning to change teams soon now that Adrian had graduated and didn't need parenting. Stuff like Adrian. Rare. He'd never met another demi-vampire. You had to jump through hoops to make one. Deep connection, real love, a blood bond that tied people together, actual blood sharing, the works. And most vampires didn't bother getting that attached. It came with risk. Once you had a blood bond, you couldn't feed off anyone else. If your donor died, you were done. Some vampires wasted away from heartbreak. Romantic, if you like tragedy. His mother called it devotion. His dad just called it a hassle, with a grin, because that's how bad he had it for her. Adrian just rolled his eyes at how disgustingly in love they were. At least he could eat normal food, thank anything out there listening. But he still needed blood, or the world started spinning and he'd end up flat on his back with a fever. Processed blood packets, routine, careful supplements, they kept the worst at bay, usually. Then, as if being a demi-vampire wasn't unique enough, puberty threw another curveball. At 14, Adrian presented Omega. Both his parents were betas, by the odds. That meant he should have been a beta too. Surprise! Instead, he spent his first heat on a family trip in Spain, burning up and crying while his dad butchered Spanish asking for ice packs, and his mom nearly strangled a pharmacist when things went sideways. Memorable vacation. Now, blockers, suppressants, constant planning, and blood supplements made life manageable on a good day. His sense of smell still raised hell. He could spot an alpha before he even saw their face. Omegas were mostly too sugary to handle. His own scent, He covered it with meds, but it still smelled like honey poured over dark soil after rain. And yeah, there was always that undercurrent of copper, of blood. That part he hated. By the time he ducked out of the library, the sun had backed off enough not to stab his eyeballs. He shoved his always cold hands into the pockets of his jacket and started the walk toward his apartment, 3 blocks from campus. Nearly home, he stopped short. Blood. Not the dull, dry stink of skinned knees or clinic trash. This was real. A wave of fresh, hot, living blood weaving through the air. Mixed into it were whiffs of expensive cologne, smoke, spice, and something magnetic and masculine that sent adrenaline screaming through every vein in Adrian's body. His mouth watered. His heart hammered. Absolutely not. No, not happening. Like a total idiot, he followed the scent. Down a narrow, overflowing alley, shadows crammed between dumpsters and bins. Adrian moved in, tense, senses sharp and wild. He spotted him. A guy was propped up against the wall, gripping his side. His hair was damp, his expensive white shirt ruined by blood, his jaw set, breath shallow, eyes fierce, even like this. Dante DeLuca, campus legend. The kind of alpha who made people fail exams just by walking past their window, heir to a local fortune, and according to what Adrian's mom's doctor, couldn't keep quiet after a little wine. Dante was next in line for the region's biggest criminal family. Dante looked up. Even pale, he made danger look effortless. Enjoying the view? His voice was raw. Adrian stared, deadpan. You're bleeding on garbage. Sharp observation, Dante shot back. That smell hit again. Hot, thick, impossible to ignore. Adrian choked it down, jaw tight. 3 choices. Walk away, go home like none of it mattered. Drain him dry right here, disturbing that it felt possible, or help. Morals won out, as usual. He took a step forward. How bad is it? Dante's gaze flicked from Adrian's throat back to his eyes. Depends. Are you planning to rob me? I could just leave you. Then do it now. Adrian crouched down, pried Dante's bloodied hand away. Knife wound, low and deep, not a death sentence, but bad enough. Moron, Adrian muttered. Happens a lot. Can you get up? Can you shut up? No. A ghost of a smile cracked Dante's face. Then his legs nearly gave out. Adrian cursed and ended up half carrying him. Dante was weirdly heavy, all muscle and what felt like too many secrets. Great, Adrian grunted as they lurched out of the alley. Now I'm kidnapping the crime prince. Dante managed a crooked smile, mumbling, Nice title, against Adrian's shoulder. Just hush. Getting Dante into Adrian's tiny apartment was a comedy of errors. They both arrived drenched with sweat. It was nothing fancy, just a single cramped room, a kitchenette, books on every surface, blackout curtains hiding the sun, and furniture straight from the thrift store. Not exactly a crime lord's den. Dante looked strangely unreal, sprawled on Adrian's lumpy bed, standing out against secondhand everything and a pile of unwashed dishes. Adrian let his bag drop with a dull thud, hands already fumbling for his phone. He dialed the one person he actually trusted to keep their mouth shut, someone who'd never push him for answers he didn't want to give. Dr. Salazar answered halfway through the second ring. If this is about your supplement dosage, take them with food. I have a bleeding alpha in my bed, Adrian said, voice shaking a little, no point easing into it. A heartbeat passed. Through the phone. Alive? Yeah, Adrian answered. Alive. That was enough to make Salazar go quiet again, but not for long. Who? He swallowed. Dante DeLuca. A longer pause now, like static, but tense. Then, do not let him die. I'll be there in 15 minutes. Click. Gone. Typical Salazar. Adrian turned toward Dante, sprawled across his mattress and looking like hell. Dante, for his part, glanced back with glassy eyes, not quite awake. "You bring men home often?" Dante asked, slurred. "Only if they're stabbed," Adrian shot back. "Good standards," Dante managed, and promptly passed out. 12 minutes later, because Salazar was nothing if not dramatic, the doctor strode in carrying a battered medical case and the wild light of a man who loved nothing better than a juicy scandal. Tall, silver at the temples, always crisp in clothes that seemed to repel dust, Salazar took in the scene with raised eyebrows. He spotted Dante on the bed and smirked. "I have to say, Adrian, your taste is improving." Adrian rolled his eyes. "I hate you." "But you called me." Salazar's tone made it sound like a compliment. He swept over to the bed, all brisk efficiency, slicing fabric, sponging blood, stitching the wound as Adrian hovered nearby, feeling increasingly useless. "The whole time," Salazar narrated under his breath, like he couldn't help himself. Knife went in clean. Missed anything vital, either by luck or very poor aim. "Is he going to make it?" Adrian pressed. "Unfortunately for lots of people, yes," Salazar said, not glancing up. Relief hit Adrian hard. He slumped against the counter, suddenly aware of how badly his legs were shaking. Salazar fixed him with a look. "When did you last eat?" "Yesterday." "Liar, you're pale." "I'm always pale." Salazar narrowed his eyes. "You're shaking." "I did just lug an unconscious 6-foot alpha up the stairs." Salazar blew out a soft hum, filing information away. Bandages went on, tools got packed, and at last Salazar looked up seriously. "You do get what this means, right?" "That I need better hobbies?" Salazar's eyes went sharp. Somebody tried to kill the DeLuca heir. If he's here, that means the killer thinks he's either dead or missing somewhere else. Adrian stared, trying to process. "No." "Yes." "No." "Congratulations. You've brought organized crime into your one-room apartment." "I brought a wounded guy in here, not a crime ring." Salazar wasn't having it. Tonight, those are the same thing. He glanced at Dante, voice dropping. "If anyone figures out you're hiding him, they'll use you." A cold pit opened in Adrian's stomach. "Fine. Take him with you, then." "I wasn't asked to play ambulance," Salazar replied, lips thin. "And if he wakes up somewhere strange, he'll think he got betrayed and start smashing things. Better he wakes up right here, where his memory cut out." Adrian groaned. "I hate every single part of this." "Understandable," Salazar said, stabbing an arm into his coat sleeve. "And Adrian?" Adrian's head snapped up. "What now?" Salazar's eyes swept the place, assessing. "The scent in here is changing." Adrian frowned. "What does that even mean?" Salazar's tone went light, almost playful. "It means you might want to give the bed a wide berth." He left without another word. Adrian turned to the bed. Dante was still out cold, breath shallow, face strangely young, without all his attitude and razor-sharp stares, too handsome. Unfairly handsome, honestly. The air had shifted, now thick with that spicy, undeniable alpha scent, mingled with blood and the heavier note of Adrian's own nervous sweat. He tried, and failed, to glare at the unconscious air. "2 nights," he told him. "Then you're someone else's problem." No answer, obviously. So Adrian sat up in his rickety old chair, pulled his knees to his chest, and watched the stranger exhale. Each breath sounded like trouble was multiplying by the hour. Then, at 2:13 in the morning, everything changed. Adrian knew the exact time because he sat in his kitchen, turning a mug of blood pack over in his hands, watching the microwave numbers crawl. Dante shot upright like he'd been electrocuted, knife already in hand, breath coming rough and fast. For a split second, Adrian just stared, halfway to taking a sip. "Seriously?" he muttered. "You got stabbed and still brought back up?" Dante's gaze snapped, wild as a cornered animal. Instinct ruled his features for a second. Dangerous, raw pain behind dark eyes. But then recognition dawned. Slowly, the steel edge in Dante's stare faded. He studied the apartment, eyes lingering everywhere. The sad kitchen, blackout curtains hiding the city, piles of books, Adrian's bare toes on the scuffed floor, and the mug red and steaming. Dante's hold on the knife loosened. "You," he croaked. Adrian shrugged. "Yeah, the idiot who decided not to let you bleed out." Dante checked his side, grimacing as he found the fresh bandage. "Doctor?" "You got Salazar." Dante froze. Adrian saw it immediately, picked up on the spike of adrenaline. Everything about Dante sharpened. Scent, eyes, the exact angle of his jaw. "You know Salazar," Dante finally said. Adrian snorted. "I know lots of people." Dante swept the room again, unimpressed. "You live in a shoebox." "I contain multitudes." Was that the edge of a smile tugging at Dante's mouth? Maybe, but those eyes didn't warm. So why call him? Adrian put his mug aside, too tired for games. "Because I figured campus health wouldn't appreciate you dripping all over their cheap floors." "Why not someone else?" Dante pressed. With a sigh, Adrian held his hands up. "He's my doctor too." That got him. Dante's gaze flicked over Adrian, the pale skin that always drew stares, the blackout curtains, the faint shakes in his hands, the mug filled with blood, not coffee. Then something clicked. "Demi-vampire," Dante said. "Gold star for you," Adrian muttered, rolling his eyes. "An omega." Adrian tensed, barely a heartbeat's pause, but Dante caught it. The air went heavy. "Don't," Adrian said flatly. Dante tilted his head, suddenly all angles and calculation. "Don't what?" "Don't make that face." "What face?" "The alpha face. The one where you start wondering if you'll snap me in half with a hug." He forced a roll of his eyes. Dante's whole expression cooled. Just a touch. "You dragged me up here by yourself. Fragile's not a word I'd use." Adrian's throat constricted. Unwelcome. He lifted the mug again, hiding his face. "Keep thinking that." Dante watched him drink. The blood tasted like rust and necessity, never quite enough. Somewhere under it, Adrian's body throbbed with hunger, despite the mug. The scent of Dante's blood wound coiled through the room, a dark, spicy challenge. "You need more," Dante muttered, reading him too easily. Adrian nearly spit out his drink. "Excuse me? You're still shaking." "I'm fine," Adrian lied. "You're hungry. And you're stabbed, possibly delirious and definitely irritating. Everybody loses tonight." Dante shifted as if to get up. Adrian nearly lunged. "Try and move, and I'll call Salazar back to sedate you." Dante raised a skeptical eyebrow. "You wouldn't." Adrian locked eyes with him. "Test me." That almost seemed to amuse Dante, a sharp, real little smile, nothing like the polished mask he wore around campus. This one was quick, small, and honest, gone in a flash. "Where am I?" he asked, all business again. "My apartment." "Address?" "Nope." Dante's gaze sharpened, voice flat. "I need my phone." "No," Adrian snapped. "My family." "Could be the ones who want you dead," Adrian blurted, not really meaning for it to come out like that. Dante's mood shifted fast. The air went sharp, almost painful. Anger curled beneath his expression, and behind that something older, something private and cold. Adrian instantly wished he hadn't said it out loud, but honestly, it was hanging there between them either way. "You know nothing about my family," Dante snapped, voice tight. Adrian exhaled, letting some of his suspicion ease. No, but Salazar does. That sentence just sat there, heavy as fog. Neither of them jumped to fill the silence. The city, meanwhile, kept up its soundtrack. Gutters trickling, music somewhere low and thumpy, shouts walled off by dirty glass. Eventually, Dante spoke up, eyes aimless and voice quiet. My cousin Raphael's been making moves. Adrian's jaw set. Against you? Against Succession. Adrian rolled his eyes. Yeah, that's just the glamorous version of someone wants you dead, right? Dante didn't even bother to correct him. Probably is. Adrian let out a rough laugh. Charming. Dante moved a little, winced, teeth bared for a moment. Adrian's irritation surged back through him. Lie down, he said, biting off the words. I'm fine. You're not fine. You're stitched together and knee-deep in family nightmares. Dante shot him a thin, not amused look. Are you always this charming? Adrian shrugged. Only when I haven't slept in a week. Before he could overthink it, Adrian strode over. Dante tensed up, the knife not rising, but his whole body watchful. That should have felt like nothing, but it didn't. It meant something. Adrian reached down and plucked the knife from Dante's grip. Their hands brushed. Dante's fingers warm. Adrian's cold. The touch was a blip, hardly a thing, but the air shifted anyway. Dante's scent grew thicker, heavier. Adrian's heart stumbled. He let go too fast and set the knife on the desk. Sleep, he ordered. Dante watched him, eyes shadowed and unreadable. Where will you sleep? Chair. No. Adrian blinked. Sorry, did the wounded criminal sprawled in my bed just tell me how to sleep? You look like you weigh less than my coat. Your coat probably costs more than my whole apartment. Probably. Adrian snorted. I hate you. Dante's lips curled. No, you don't. And the worst part, Adrian kind of hated that might be the truth. He yanked a scratchy blanket from his closet and crashed into the world's least comfortable chair. The springs groaned menacingly and jabbed him in the leg. Dante just watched, stone silent. Minutes stumbled past. Then Dante said quietly, Adrian. His name sounded like a secret dragged over gravel. It made Adrian's chest hurt. He kept his eyes closed. What? Thank you. That landed so carefully, almost an apology itself. Adrian clenched his jaw. You're welcome, he muttered. Couldn't leave it at that, though. Try not to bleed through my sheets more than you already have. Dante snorted, something almost like a reluctant laugh. And just like that, Adrian felt his headache slip. Not vanish, but fade out. Just enough. By sunrise, Dante was burning up. Adrian noticed before light even touched the window. Dante's scent had curdled, not infection, not yet, but wrong enough to yank Adrian out of half sleep. Dragging himself upright, neck aching, mouth full of pennies, he stumbled over. Dante lay shivering on his side, one hand pressed protectively near the bandage, jaw locked. You absolute idiot, Adrian whispered. Guilt simmered. Dante wasn't doing anything but surviving. Adrian washed, double-checked the wound like Salazar showed him. The bandage had gone damp, but not a disaster zone. Good. But Dante's skin was fever-flushed, too hot. Adrian called Salazar, who answered with, Is he dead? You need people skills. Is he dead? No. Fever. Expected. Give him the antibiotics I left. 2 white, 1 blue, food, not empty stomach. He's out cold. Wake him. You wake him. Adrian. He groaned. Fine. Oh, and eat something. Adrian looked at his mini fridge where his last few blood packs were waiting. I did. You sound weak. It's called being annoyed. You always sound annoyed, but this is worse. Adrian hung up before the doctor could get any further under his skin. Waking Dante sucked. The man lashed out, fist snapping up. Adrian jerked aside and shoved a pillow over Dante's face. Stop punching your nurse. Dante froze under the pillow. Adrian let up, watching for another swing, but Dante only squinted up at him. Nurse? He croaked. Unpaid and deeply unwilling, Adrian muttered. Dante's lashes slipped down halfway. Cute. Adrian felt his face flush. Fever's frying your brain. Maybe. Pills. No. Adrian pinched the bridge of his nose. Excuse me. I don't take anything I haven't checked. Oh, you think I brought you here? Called a doctor, didn't sleep, and now I'm slipping you poison? Dante's gaze cut through him, fever or not. People have done worse for less. That shut Adrian up. The tension inside went sour. Dante said it like gravity, as if kindness only counted if you proved it wasn't a trap. Adrian hated that. He shoved the pill bottles over with more force than necessary, headed into the kitchen, and attacked a loaf of bread for toast as if it had insulted him. Check the labels, he called. Call Salazar, send a damn carrier pigeon, whatever it takes, but you're taking them. I'm not cleaning up a corpse. Dante studied the labels, then studied Adrian, then, finally, took the pills. Adrian busied himself with cracking eggs, because if Dante saw relief on his face, he'd never live it down. Breakfast turned out to be half a slice of limp toast for Adrian because the eggs made him queasy, and everything took Dante ages to eat. Every forkful wrestled through pain. You cook? Dante asked. Sort of. It's good. It's toast. I've had worse. That's sad. You're rich. My father's rich. Adrian paused. That's not the same. Dante's fork stopped. No, it isn't. There was weight in it, too much to poke without breaking something. After food, Dante refused to sleep. He sat cross-legged by the wall, following Adrian's every move with those strange, silent eyes. The attention grated. Adrian brushed his teeth, changed in the bathroom with the door locked, took his suppressants, cracked open a cold blood pack because if he heated it, the scent would fill the place, and, well, he wasn't up for that conversation yet. When he came out, Dante's gaze snagged on the little silver pouch. How often? Dante asked. Nosy, Adrian shot back. You saved my life, Adrian. That doesn't mean you get my medical records. No. Dante's words came quieter. It means I care. There it was again, that disastrous honesty. It rattled Adrian more than he wanted. He tossed the empty pack. Once a day, more if I'm stressed or sick or close to my heat, or, if there's a bleeding alpha stinking up my apartment. Dante's eyebrows rose in clear amusement. Adrian realized what he'd just admitted. No. Dante's lips curled. No? Adrian jabbed a finger at him. Forget that sentence. Expensive sin, huh? Fever. You hallucinated that. Dante's smile faded, but his eyes didn't harden. Does my blood bother you? Adrian hesitated, not wanting to answer. Yes. How much? Adrian weighed that, tried for honesty, then shrugged. Enough that dragging you through the alley, I thought about sinking my teeth in and drinking you dry. Dante went perfectly still. Adrian winced. Should have kept that to myself. Why didn't you? Adrian's answer barely filled the silence. A little rough, not remotely clever. Because murder's generally not considered polite. Adrian. There it was again. That softness. Gentle enough to feel like a bruise when you pressed on it. He loathed being spoken to like something breakable. He folded his arms, defensiveness settling tight over his skin. Because you were hurt and scared. I wasn't scared. Yeah, you were. Adrian tapped his nose, a deliberate gesture. I can smell lies. Dante's jaw locked. That familiar wall went right back up. For 1 second, Adrian thought he'd gone too far and would regret it. Push someone like Dante too hard and you risk recoil. But then Dante's eyes dropped to the floor. I was angry, he admitted finally. The fear came after. Adrian sat in the desk chair, careful not to close the gap between them. Wasn't about being polite. Distance just felt safer. Who stabbed you? Dante's gaze slid over to the window, the heavy curtain drawn tight. Raphael's man. Or maybe Raphael himself called the hit. Maybe my father let it happen, just to see if I'd survive. Adrian tried to process it. Your father would do that to you? My father thinks mercy means you're weak, poor leadership in his opinion. That's messed up. That's family. No, see, that's called genetic insanity. Shared genes don't make it better. Something flickered in Dante's eyes. He laughed, quick and sharp, but the movement pulled at his wound and he made a quiet sound of pain, hand pressed to his side. Adrian stood up, more annoyed than worried. See? Don't laugh. Your evil family trauma can't handle joy. Dante looked at him through the pain, eyes a little wild. You're odd. Adrian just crossed the room, tone dry. You're bleeding on a stranger's sheets because your cousin wants a new job title. Dante blinked, then actually let the faintest smile slip through. Fair. A silence edged in around them, less vicious, not exactly friendly, but oddly, not so hostile anymore. Adrian checked the time and swore under his breath. I have class. No, Dante said instantly. Adrian froze, slowly turned, eyebrows high. Excuse me? If Raphael figures out you helped me, he won't. If he does, he won't. Adrian's voice edged cold. You don't know that, and you don't get to give orders in my bed. Something prickled in the air. Adrian felt it, like humidity before a storm. Dante's alpha presence spiking, washing over him, intentional or not. His body tensed, instincts on alert, caught between the urge to push Dante out and something a bit more complicated. Adrian hated how obvious it felt. His eyes narrowed, ice in his voice. Pull it back, DeLuca. Shock stilled Dante, confusion first, and then sudden understanding. The pressure flicked off, leaving the room washed hollow. I'm sorry, Dante said, and it sounded serious. More than that, almost ashamed. Adrian's anger flickered, uncertain. Alphas never apologized. Not fast, not sincerely. Not for dominance, and definitely not for showing teeth. Dante looked unsettled, like he didn't quite know what to do with himself now. I didn't mean it. I know, Adrian said, softer. He honestly did. Dante swallowed. I don't want you hurt. Because of me. And I don't want to bomb my midterm just because you collect stab wounds like merit badges. Dante just stared at him. He grabbed his bag, already halfway to the exit before that smile could become dangerous. I'll be gone 3 hours. Do not leave. Don't call anyone except Salazar. Don't bleed on anything new. Don't die. Dante lifted an eyebrow, almost amused. Anything else? Yes. Leave my blood packs alone. A proper laugh tried to surface again. Dante's eyes went dark with humor. Not really my taste. Adrian paused at the door. Good. He hesitated, just for a moment, glancing back. Dante looked out of place in his careful, small apartment. All injured bravado, too much presence for such neat corners, skin unnaturally pale under the new bandage. Adrian sighed. There's a knife on the desk. I know. Of course you do. With that, Adrian left, locking the door tight. He told himself, over and over, all the way to campus, not to waste another thought on the wounded Alpha stretched out alone in his apartment. He failed, and felt ridiculous about it. He lasted 42 minutes in class. Barely. The professor was droning about post-war economics in a monotone made for background noise. Adrian usually liked this class. Not today. Every scrape of a chair made him want to jump. Every perfume caught the wrong way. The fluorescent lights burned holes right through his skull. Someone 2 rows away pulled out a garlic bagel, and for 10 seconds, Adrian contemplated murder. But it was always Dante at the back of his mind. Was the fever worse? Had he broken the rules? Had he called someone dangerous? Was he lying in a heap in the bathroom because typical alpha pride couldn't ask for help when he needed it? Adrian glared at his notebook, trying to convince himself he didn't care. Not about Dante DeLuca, not at all. He cared about not coming home to a corpse, that was all. Completely separate things. By the 50-minute mark, he'd had it. Packed his bag, muttered something about being sick, and left, which honestly was true at this point. He walked home faster than he meant to, antsy the whole way. He took the stairs 2 at a time, key already in his fist, and shoved the front door open with all the fury he'd been saving up. Instead, he just stopped dead. The apartment was spotless, which was wrong. Adrian was not a slob, but he was also not a neat freak. And now, books were stacked, dishes done, the years-old coffee stain gone from the table, blankets folded, even the lamp straight at last. Dante was at the little kitchenette table, drowning in one of Adrian's black t-shirts. The bandage at his waist was fresh, his hair still damp, and something was simmering on the stove. The smell almost made Adrian dizzy. Basil, tomato, butter. No garlic, no onion, no sharp spice. Just warmth and hunger and unfamiliar domesticity. Dante looked up from slicing vegetables with Adrian's bargain bin knife. You're early. That's my shirt, Adrian managed. Dante looked down as if it hadn't occurred to him. It's all that fit. It doesn't fit, Adrian pointed out. Irritated, yes, but for reasons he didn't want to unpack. Dante shrugged, unbothered. Guess not. Adrian inhaled, stomach clenching painfully. He didn't want to ask questions about the menu, but they slipped out anyway. You cooked? I investigated your kitchen. That is not an answer. I cooked because, frankly, your cabinets are the most depressing thing I've seen all week. Adrian let his bag fall by the door. How are you even upright? Painkillers. You weren't supposed to shower. I needed the blood off. You weren't supposed to move at all. I was bored. Adrian wanted to stay angry. He really did. But all the fury kind of fizzled at the sight. A battered alpha, far too large for this place, calmly cooking pasta in his stolen shirt. Something had definitely gone wrong with the universe. Why'd you clean? You helped me, Dante answered, perfectly matter-of-fact. Adrian rolled his eyes. That's not how debts work. You don't scrub floors just because someone saved your life. That's not a trade. Maybe not here, Dante said, calm as a spring night. But back home, you do. Adrian snorted, trying not to grin. Back home, you idiots stab each other just to climb the ladder. Dante's knife stilled for a split second, blade glinting in the low kitchen light. Then, as if nothing passed between them, he kept chopping tomatoes. Adrian suddenly felt dumb for the jab, too sharp, too personal. He opened his mouth to mumble an apology, but Dante cut him off first. Sit down, Dante said. That's a pretty commanding tone, Adrian answered, biting back a smile. It's a suggestion, Dante replied, his voice even, just with a bit of edge. I refuse. Adrian. God. The way Dante said his name shouldn't have been allowed, low like gravel after the rain, and steady, holding back something dangerous, before Adrian realized he was in the chair chewing on his own resentment. Dinner tasted ridiculous, way better than it had any right to be. The pasta was simple, a light mix of butter, tomato, basil, cracked black pepper, and a small mountain of freshly shaved parmesan. Adrian poked at the cheese, frowning. "When did you buy cheese?" he asked suspiciously. "You didn't have any," Dante said, like it was nothing. "That's not, look, you can't just decide." "But you're eating it." The tiniest smirk played at Dante's mouth. Adrian scowled, took another forkful, and tried not to enjoy it. He failed. Dante noticed, of course. "I hate this," Adrian mumbled into his plate. "You hate a lot of things. The sun, garlic, people who chew like they're broadcasting, arrogant assholes." Dante paused, watching him too closely. Was he actually nervous? There was still that bit of humor, like usual, but something else, fragile underneath. He waited, searching Adrian's face. Adrian's pulse fumbled. "You fall into a different category," he managed. "Still arrogant. Just special." Dante laughed, then winced, pressing a hand to his stitched side. Adrian pointed his fork at him. "See? Stop enjoying anything." "Yes, doctor." "I'm not your doctor." "No." Dante's voice dropped, a half whisper. "You're much worse." Adrian felt his cheeks flame, hated that too. Later, Adrian replaced Dante's bandages. He focused really, really hard on the wound, more on that than on Dante's exposed skin. The bruises across Dante's stomach were blooming purple with sickle yellow at the edges. There were older scars, too, thin, faded lines zigzagging beside his ribs, one near his shoulder and another swept across his pelvis. Not accidents, not by chance. Adrian recognized enough. Knife wounds, maybe a bullet or two, more like a map of violence than anything else. He slowed, thumb tracing near pale scar tissue. "You've been hurt. A lot." Dante stared at the water-stained ceiling, jaw rigid. "Yes." "That's not normal," Adrian muttered. "Was for me." Adrian felt something catch in his chest. "Even when you were a kid?" The silence that followed felt bottomless. Adrian almost apologized before Dante finally spoke. "My father thought pain taught better than kindness." Adrian kept his eyes on the gauze, not trusting himself to look up. Everything about Dante seemed suddenly raw, exposed. "That's abuse," Adrian said tightly. Dante shrugged, the smallest movement. "That's a word." "No, that's facts." He looked up, met Dante's eyes, pushed through the nerves. The quiet grew heavier. Dante's gaze turned searching, and for a second Adrian almost looked away. Then Dante said, almost too soft to hear, "You get angry on others' behalf a lot." "Somebody should," Adrian said, sharper than intended. Dante's scent changed, deeper, warmer, more interested. It rolled through the small apartment, leaving Adrian hyper-aware of everything. His own breathing, the heat of his skin, the line of Dante's mouth. Adrian finished patching up too fast and pulled back. "All done," he croaked. "Try not to get stabbed again." Dante just grinned. "I'll try." By night, Adrian swallowed his suppressants, waiting for the familiar chill to settle in his bones. But it didn't come. Instead, a restless heat crept under his skin, heartbeat thumping wild and quick in his chest. He could hear everything. The creak of Dante shifting across the room, the scratch of sheet over bare skin, and the shallow hitches of breath every time the wound flared. He could definitely smell him. The earlier shower had erased blood but left nothing between them but scent. Cedar, smoke, that hint of spice, skin, something even darker and more familiar. Alpha, and under it all a warm, coppery sweetness. Dante's blood, healing and moving beneath his skin. Adrian hugged himself tighter, curling in the rickety chair. No, absolutely not. Not like this. Stress could mess with suppressants. Salazar had lectured him about it 100 times. Well, what else did you call hiding a notorious crime heir in a shoebox of an apartment? Adrian. He kept his eyes shut. What? You're breathing weird. So are you. You're existing weirdly loudly. A pause, then quieter. Are you sick? God, that concern. It made everything worse. No. You're sweating. Stop noticing me. A moment stretched. Sheets rustled. Adrian snapped his eyes open as Dante pushed himself upright, swinging his legs over the bed. What are you doing? Checking on you. Try it and I'll finish the job whoever stabbed you started. Adrian wanted to sound meaner, but the edge wasn't there. Dante ignored him, stepping forward with predator's grace. Even with pain, every movement was measured, dangerous. He crouched in front of Adrian, way too close. The air felt thick. Adrian could see Dante's pulse, could smell him, could almost feel the heat blazing off his skin. Your pupils are blown, Dante said, voice low. Your face is toxic. You're flushed. That's normal. I'm allowed to. No, you're not, Dante cut in, and his eyes went sharper. Adrian's retort died in his throat. Neither are you, he almost said. Bit it back. Dante's hand lifted, slow and careful. Adrian should have swatted it away, but instead he sat, frozen, while Dante's knuckles brushed his forehead way too gentle. You're burning up. Adrian jerked back. No. Dante narrowed his eyes. No what? No alpha worrying, no macho heroic stuff, no instincts. I'm just asking what's wrong. My suppressants are delayed, saying it stung more than he thought it would. Dante's whole body stilled, a tension coiling in the air. You're near heat, he said, quiet. Maybe, not sure. How soon? No idea. Has it happened before? Yes, but not with anyone else around. Dante let out a slow breath, and if Adrian didn't know better, he'd swear it sounded dangerous. I need distance, Adrian said. Dante moved instantly, 3 steps, then 4, retreating to the far edge of the bed. No attitude, no offense, just space. The relief nearly knocked Adrian backward. Thank you, he whispered. He couldn't remember the last time he'd said that to anyone. Dante's face softened. Just tell me what you need. No one ever said it like that. Not, what's wrong? Not, are you medicated? Not, even is this inconvenient? Only, what do you need? Adrian swallowed, a lump forming. Cold water. Crack the window, and I need you to talk to me. Dante raised an eyebrow. Talk to you? If I pay attention to my body, it gets worse. Conversation helps. That's real? Yes, Adrian snapped. I thought Omega's just... Dante started. Finish that sentence and I'll break your nose. Dante's mouth twitched. All right, boss. He didn't push, just got up, grabbed a glass of water, cracked the window, settled back on his own bed, a careful distance away. He nodded. So, what do you want to talk about? Adrian chugged half the water, mouth dry. Why everyone worships you. That should keep my mind busy. Dante let out a startled laugh, eyes crinkling in something close to real amusement. Sadist. I'm trying to distract myself. Fine. They worship an illusion. Go on, convince me. Adrian leaned his head back, eyes traveling the cracked ceiling, just listening. Dante shifted, settling in with that tired honesty roughening his voice. Public Dante's useful, attractive, controlled, pulled together enough that people envy him and feel safe from his chaos. Adrian arched a brow. And Private Dante? Bleeding in alleys. Adrian looked right at him over his glass. Yeah, that one I've met. Lucky you. Adrian smiled, not ready to commit. I'm undecided. Dante's mouth twitched, just barely. And you? He asked back. What about public, Adrian? Quiet scholarship student. Always looks bored. Best known for having a resting disdain face. And private? Adrian paused, that particular hesitation of someone whose honesty was a flaw in moments like this. He couldn't lie, not when it really mattered. Hungry, he admitted quietly. Tired. Wanting more than I'm able to ask for. Dante's attention hooked onto him. You could feel it. Suddenly the silence got heavier, dragged out between them. Adrian's own scent grew thick in the room, sweet and restless under stress, and he knew if he could smell it, Dante definitely could. Dante's hands curled, knuckles pale on his knees. Then he made himself relax. You should feed, he said, voice a little ragged. I already did. Not enough. No. Adrian. No. Dante held his gaze, searching for something, then rolled up the sleeve of his borrowed shirt, exposing the soft inside of his wrist. His pulse thudded, steady and strong. Adrian's breath stilled. This isn't heroics, Dante said, quiet now. It's just practical. You're injured. I'm healing. You're alpha. I'm offering. Adrian's fangs ached. He could feel hunger scrape down his throat, every instinct straining forward, but fear right there with it. Feeding like this was intimate, bare teeth on skin, straight from the source, doing it with an alpha while so near heat. Dangerous. But doing it with Dante DeLuca felt more like stepping straight into open air, not knowing where he'd land. Adrian barely breathed. No, he whispered. Dante dropped his arm right away. No drama, no hurt pride, just acceptance. No pressure, that was almost worse. Adrian stared, full of want. And it was not just blood he wanted, and the truth of it was a sharp, hungry thing in his chest. He didn't sleep. Dante either. Both of them wrecked by morning, pale and drawn from all the wanting and not wanting. So when Adrian reached for his suppressant pills, his hands shook so hard he fumbled them, clattering across the floor. Dante was across the room before they landed, that fast. Adrian. The way his name sounded, worried, sharp, immediate, cut straight through him. Adrian bent down, trying to grab the scattered pills, but the world spun. He nearly collapsed. Dante caught his shoulders. His hands were hot. Everything in Adrian's senses screamed. Heat, scent, steadiness, strength. A broken noise escaped him before he could help it. Dante went very still, holding him like something fragile or dangerous, or both. Tell me what to do. And Adrian's body knew first, spitting out the truth. Feed me. The words just hung there, hot and reckless. They sounded desperate in the heavy air. When Adrian realized what he'd said, humiliation burned through him. Dante held steady, hands unmoving on Adrian's shoulders. No teasing, no smugness, just waiting. Say it again, Dante said, gentle but infuriating. Adrian glared, heat and embarrassment tangling. Absolutely not. I need to know you mean it. I'm half feral right now, Adrian grumbled. Barely remember my own name. But Dante caught the detail. You know it. You used mine first. Cheater. Adrian tried to stand. He swayed. Dante got his arm under his back, anchoring him with real strength. Dante's scent filled the air, so much smoke and cedar and the heat of skin, all of it under a layer of iron control. Adrian's fangs ached, hard enough his jaw throbbed. He made a soft, unintentional hiss. Adrian. Stop sounding concerned, Adrian bit out. You're just making all of this worse. Would you prefer indifference? No. Good. Save the attitude for later. Dante steered him to the bed. Adrian hated how comforted he felt, hated the relief of something soft and safe after nights in that cursed chair. Hated, too, how his body naturally angled toward Dante as if dragged by his presence. Listen close, Dante said, dropping to one knee until their eyes met, tone deadly serious. If you feed, you stop the second I say. Adrian blinked. Excuse me. You're hungry, overheated, and stressed. People lose judgment like this, predators, all of us. I'm not going to drain you, Dante's voice gentled. I know. I'm telling you so you don't have to be afraid of that. The words struck something vulnerable in Adrian, made it hard to swallow. I've never fed directly from anyone but family, he admitted, and it felt like handing over a secret. Dante's eyes stayed level. Then I'm honored to be your first regrettable choice. Arrogant bastard. You asked for me. I hate you. No, you don't. There it was again, that soft, annoying certainty. Dante rolled up his sleeve again and held out his wrist. Adrian couldn't look away from the pale skin, the living pulse beneath. Hunger thickened in his mouth, a fierce thing that almost hurt. Dante offered him an out. One last sarcastic chance. Your last window to insult me and change your mind. Your hair is stupid. It's excellent hair. It's smug. Adrian. The laugh that caught in Adrian's throat came out unsteady, but he couldn't help it. He took Dante's wrist between both cold hands, felt the warmth, the stutter of nerves. Dante was tense too. He could feel it. It was grounding somehow. Tell me if it hurts, Adrian said. I've been stabbed recently. My pain scale's a mess. Dante, it won't hurt. Adrian lifted his eyes to meet Dante's, no flinching, just that calm, locked-in attention, then dropped his head to Dante's wrist. He bit gently, making it as delicate as he could, fangs slipping through flesh. Then the rush. Blood, alive and complex, filled his mouth. Spice, smoke, warm metal, all tangled up in the taste of Dante. It was nothing like supplements, nothing like bags of chilled or heated blood. This was vivid, overwhelming, and real. A desperate sound escaped Adrian before he could stifle it. Dante reacted instantly, a shiver, a sharp inhale. He anchored his free hand at the back of Adrian's neck, just a light touch, grounding and steady, nothing forceful at all. Simply, he was there, real, unyielding. That touch did something. It let Adrian find his center, or fake it, or maybe just notice his own heartbeat for the first time in hours. He focused on the rhythm. Pulse, swallow, breath. The rest of the world faded a bit. He was careful at first, measured. Then greed took over. It was impossible not to. But he had to fight himself, pull back, slow to a pace that wouldn't burn through everything at once. Every nerve in him screamed to take more. Still, he managed restraint. He felt a rush. His body was desperate for it, strength returning in quick waves. The headache ebbed, feverish heat cooled at the edges, and the hollow trembling stilled out. But now Dante's scent turned sharp, arousal, adrenaline, all tangled up and wild. It hit Adrian hard, sent him choking on surprise and need. He yanked back immediately, blood still warm on his lips, Dante's wrist in his hands. Dante, chest heaving, face pale. "Oh no," Adrian whispered, staring. Dante's pupils were blown, eyes black and unreadable. "Oh no," Adrian said again. Neither of them moved. Then Dante, voice rough like gravel, said, "You have blood on your mouth." "I am aware." "You should wipe it." "I cannot move." "That's unfortunate." Adrian glared at him. "Are you flirting right now?" "I might be concussed." "That doesn't answer the question." With slow certainty, Dante raised his uninjured hand and swiped his thumb across Adrian's lower lip. The touch made time stutter, a small act, but so intimate it should have been illegal, and maybe in some places it was. Adrian froze, head spinning. Dante glanced at the blood on his thumb, then looked up and met Adrian's eyes. He licked it clean. Adrian's thoughts just stopped. Too much. Brains short-circuited. "Absolutely not," he said, voice barely there. Dante's mouth quirked up. "You're welcome." "For what?" "Making you too mad to faint. That's not how biology works." It worked. Annoyingly, Adrian couldn't argue with that. The crash was inevitable. About 20 minutes later, his system gave out. The actual feeding helped, but stress and delayed medication were still chewing at his nerves. Meanwhile, Dante patched himself up, under Salazar's yelling on the speaker, of course. He disinfected and rebandaged the bite. Somehow, Adrian found himself on his own bed, swaddled in his blanket while Dante took over the chair. "Offensive," Adrian mumbled. "You're exhausted," Dante replied, calm as ever. "That is my chair. It's a torture device. It has character. It has springs." "Character springs." Dante grinned. Adrian shot him a sleepy glare. Really, Dante had no right to look so composed, not after being used as a walking snack, but there he was. Color back in his cheeks, a heat in his scent Adrian would now never be able to ignore. An aware, alert sort of presence radiates off him. Not good, not easy to ignore, inconvenient, and unfair. "Sleep," Dante ordered gently. "Leave," Adrian muttered. "Neither of us is getting what we want today." When he woke again, the room was deep in night. For a second he thought he was alone. But no. The slow, steady sound of someone else breathing kept him anchored. Dante was slumped in the torture chair, legs sprawled out, Adrian's economics textbook cradled on his chest. The whole scene was so absurd, Adrian surprised himself with a smile, but then he stilled. Stupid. Dangerous. He forced himself upright, checking how he felt. Still hot, but manageable. He was stronger than he'd been in days, an uncomfortable fact given why. The feeding cleared the fog from his head better than any supplement ever had. That knowledge was a little terrifying all on its own. Quietly he crossed over, crouching beside the chair. Up close, Dante's face was younger, the hard lines of his features eased by sleep. Dark lashes, a tiny scar across one brow he hadn't noticed before. Without thinking, Adrian reached out, pushing a stray strand of hair off Dante's forehead. Dante's hand snapped up, locking around Adrian's wrist. Adrian nearly screamed. Those eyes opened instantly, sharp and clear. They softened when they saw Adrian. "You hover weirdly," Dante mumbled. "You fake sleep like a maniac." "I was sleeping." "You react like someone reaching for a gun." "Good habits." He let Adrian go, slowly. Neither moved away. The only light came from the mess of street lamp glow leaking around the curtains, enough to see, but barely. Dante's palm rested on Adrian's pulse. His own heartbeat thudded wild against it. "You smiled at me," Dante said. "I did not." "Yeah, you did." "Hallucination." "I was awake." "That sounds fake." Dante's thumb traced along Adrian's wrist. Small motion, thunderous inside. Adrian jerked upright so fast he nearly knocked over the table. "I'm making tea." "You don't drink tea." "I do now." New personality. Dante's quiet laugh trailed behind him. The next morning, Adrian hauled himself to campus. He actually made it to 3 classes this time, which felt like a small win. Dante only texted him once. "Alive. Did laundry. Your socks are tragic." Adrian stared in disbelief before replying, "Touch my charger, and I'll leak your location." Dante's comeback was immediate. "You'd miss me." On principle, Adrian blocked the number for 6 minutes, then unblocked it, just in case. Accidents, emergencies, whatever. Manipulative men always won these small wars. That night, as Adrian walked into the apartment, he noticed the door wasn't locked. Instant dread. He moved silent, every instinct keyed up. No Dante in visible range. Kitsch. Empty. Nothing. But the scent hit him. Blood, thick and too fresh. His heart jolted painfully. "Dante!" A strained voice from the bathroom. "In here." He needed only 3 strides to reach the door and push inside. Dante leaned against the sink, shirt discarded, one hand braced heavily, the other pressing a towel to a fresh wound across his shoulder. Blood ran in quick streams down his chest. The sight spun Adrian's head. "What happened?" "Just a scratch," Dante said, low and infuriatingly casual. "You are bleeding in my bathroom." "Yes?" "That's not an answer." Dante met his eyes in the mirror. "Someone found me." Adrian's insides went cold. "Who?" "Raphael's guys." "Here?" "Out front. I led them away." Adrian's knees nearly buckled. "You left." "I handled it." "You left with stitches." "I came back." "You could have died." His voice cracked. He hated it. Dante turned, face shifting the second he caught Adrian's expression. "You're angry," he said softly. "I'm furious." "You're scared." Don't tell me what I feel." Dante moved in, and his scent hit Adrian like a brick wall, hot blood mingled with sweat, almost magnetic. Adrian gripped the sink to anchor himself. "I came back," Dante said again, quietly. "You shouldn't have needed to go." The truth was all over the floor between them. Neither one moved. Gently, Dante reached out and touched Adrian's cheek. Just a brush of skin, fleeting. "Someone has to end this before they try to get to me through you." Adrian's throat closed up. "No." Dante's thumb skimmed his skin. "No. No ending it alone." Some fierce, wild light flared in Dante's dark eyes. He leaned in, resting their foreheads together, breathing those last inches away. "Careful, Adrian." "Why?" "You're starting to sound like you're mine." Adrian's breath snagged. He didn't say the sensible thing, not when logic had already abandoned him. He just whispered, "Maybe I'm starting to feel like it." Neither moved. The bathroom was a world too small for moments like this. The ghost of steam still clung to the air, blood mixed with soap and skin, electricity running between them. Dante didn't let go right away, despite everything. Blood loss, danger, exhaustion. He stayed. Hand gentle at Adrian's cheek, forehead pressed to forehead. Finally, Dante pulled back as if anything too sudden might break something fragile lingering between them, even if no one had named it yet. "You say reckless things when you're mad," Dante said, voice thick. I say true things when I'm mad, Adrian shot back, pulse thundering in his ears. Dante's gaze darkened. That's more dangerous than you know. Desperate for distraction, Adrian glanced at Dante's shoulder. Blood trickled, sharp and red. A lifeline of a topic. You're bleeding on my floor. Romance dies instantly with you. It was dead on arrival. Liar. Adrian fished the first aid kit out, bumping his knuckles as he yanked it free. Sit. Was that an order? It was a threat. Dante actually sat. That, somehow, was worse. Adrian cleaned the cut with more force than strictly necessary, not vicious per se, but no less deliberate. The wound was shallow but nasty, long from what was probably a knife, not dangerous. Still, Adrian's skin crawled, thinking how close it could have gone. If Dante had been slow, if luck hadn't been there. His fangs ached from the smell, and guilt gnawed in his chest. He pressed the disinfectant in hard. Dante hissed. Sorry. You're not. No, I'm punishing you. For protecting you. For leaving me. Dante watched him quietly, then said, You're not used to someone caring if you take risks, are you? I'm used to people complaining, Dante said, not to them giving a damn. Adrian's hands faltered. A hush pressed in. He didn't trust himself to react kindly, so he taped the wound with extra efficiency, businesslike. There. You survived your own stupidity. Dante stood, too close immediately, radiating heat, presence, that impossible gravity again. You cared. I hate paperwork. Adrian. Don't say my name like that. Like what? Like it's yours. Dante's gaze sharpened, pinning him. Is it? The question shot straight through Adrian. Instincts flared, conflicting wants and needs tumbling inside him. He sidestepped, escaping into the kitchen. Eat, he called over his shoulder. I'm fine. Not a suggestion. Dante followed him in. You're bossy for someone half my size. I get things done. You're alive because I am. Dante leaned against the counter, Adrian busy making the world's angriest sandwiches, turkey, cheese, mustard, on autopilot. He shoved the plate into Dante's hands and snapped, Sit! And unbelievably, Dante listened. Again. The strangest thing about this week wasn't the danger or the blood, but this, Dante obeying him like it was normal. They ate at the little table, knees colliding every time someone so much as reached for their cup. Adrian couldn't decide if the apartment was shrinking every day Dante stuck around or if he was just obsessed with the way Dante filled up all the space. Everything felt crowded in the best and worst ways. Every breath clued him in, Dante's scent everywhere. Every glance got hung up on those shoulders stretching his shirt, the hands battered and strong, the eyes tracking him through the quiet. Even silence felt heavy, charged. Adrian's mind broke first. How many men? He shot out. Dante paused, focusing all that cool on him. What? Raphael's. How many? 3. You fought off 3 men while you're still bleeding? I avoided 3 men while still bleeding, Dante corrected, like that was somehow less infuriating. Adrian's voice turned sharp. You came home bleeding. One of them was a little eager. He glared. Of course, Dante didn't even flinch, just took another bite of sandwich like he hadn't hacked years off Adrian's lifespan tonight. You need somewhere safer, Adrian muttered. I've got options. Then use them. It came out too harsh. Dante set his food down, finally meeting his eyes. You want me gone? No, his whole chest screamed. Adrian barely disguised it by staring down at his plate. I want you alive. Dante stayed silent for a long, uneasy beat. Enough that Adrian looked up again and found his stare warm, dangerous, impossible to look away from. I can be both, Dante said. Can you? I'd like to try. That kicked off a 15-minute war over sleeping quarters. You take the bed, Adrian argued. You're still running a fever, Dante shot back, and it's fine. It's down. You're lying. I'm practically a professional liar. You shake when you're tired. That is a filthy rumor. You grind your teeth. I hear it. You notice too much. I notice enough. They both folded their arms, stared each other down. Eventually, Dante tossed his hands up and peeled the blanket off the chair. Fine, we share. Adrian went stiff. Absolutely not. The bed's small, Dante deadpanned, not cursed. It is cursed now. You're exhausted. So are you. We're not winning this. I'd rather die. Dante stepped in close, unreadable. You let me feed you this morning. That was medical. You touched my face tonight. That was triage? Adrian refused to meet his eyes. I was emotionally unstable. Dante's laugh exploded out of nowhere, sharp enough that he grabbed at his side. Adrian just glared. See? See what you do to me? It's worth it, Dante said. No, it's... Yes, Dante interrupted, suddenly quieter, and something in that look softened in a way that scared Adrian more than anything. Come to bed, Adrian. So he lost, again, a habit forming faster than he'd like to admit. The bed was so damn narrow. They lay on top, fully dressed, facing away from each other like awkward mannequins. 3 inches separated them, but it felt like an open ocean. He could hear Dante's breathing, feel his heat everywhere, sharper in this cramped bed, smell him even. Musky, undeniably present. This was a nightmare. 10 minutes passed before Dante whispered, Are you awake? No, Adrian replied. You lie loudly. Why are you talking? You stole the blankets? Adrian looked down. He had cocooned himself in almost all of it. It's tactical, he defended. It's grand theft. You're rich. Get another. In my own hostage scenario, you're not the hostage. Dante twitched closer, rescuing a corner of the blanket. Their thighs brushed. They froze. Brief touch. Accidental. Felt catastrophic. Adrian's pulse slammed against his skull. Dante's breathing shifted. Neither commented. A full minute later, Adrian muttered, If you make this weird, I'll bite you. You already did. Adrian groaned into the pillow. Dante's quiet laugh drifted him into sleep. He woke up in Dante's arms. For one hazy moment, Adrian figured he had to be dreaming. Warmth clung to him, a big hand splayed on his waist, the solid wall of chest against his back, Dante's breath slow and close on his neck. Then reality crashed in. He froze, every nerve buzzing traitorously. He should move. Right now, he didn't, just felt. Every inch of contact, Dante deeply asleep, face hidden near Adrian's shoulder, leg tangled over his, the hand around Adrian's waist, squeezed unconsciously, instinctive, protective. It felt possessive, but not greedy, gentle, unhurried, like nobody had ever wanted him just to be close, rather than just to take. Something in his chest cracked open. Dante breathed his name. Stay. Adrian almost combusted. I hate everything, he whispered. Dante nuzzled blindly into his shoulder, still half asleep. Adrian stared at the wall and accepted the absurdity of his existence. The pounding on the door tore them apart in an instant. Dante rolled out of bed without so much as a grunt, swiping the knife off the desk. Adrian's heart tried to leap out of his chest. Another bang. Adrian! A woman's voice, familiar and very unwelcome. Oh, God. His mother. Dante looked lethal. My mother is here, Adrian croaked. Dante's glare melted, replaced by disbelief. You're kidding. I wish. Another knock. Adrian Mercer, I can smell Alpha through the door, his mother called. Adrian closed his eyes, face burning. Dante's expression shifted to something between horror and awe. You're dead meat, Dante whispered. I know. She can scent through walls. She's a vampire. Great. She's also judgmental. Better. The next knock was almost cheerful. And if you don't let me in, I'll assume you're naked and shout louder, she called. Dante actually laughed. Adrian wanted the earth to swallow him. Get dressed, Adrian hissed. We are dressed. Look less. Post-sex. Impossible, Dante grinned. Adrian lobbed a pillow at his face and stomped to the door. He barely got it open before Mara Mercer swept inside, a whirlwind of expensive cream trousers, sunglasses, and maternal scrutiny sharp enough to cut glass. She looked at Adrian, then at Dante, still in Adrian's too-tight shirt, then back. Oh, she said, all warmth and cunning. So this is why you dodged my calls. Mother. Sweetheart. Her eyes lingered on Dante, all calculation. Dante, who just yesterday faced down men with guns, squared up instantly, like a schoolboy at roll call. Mara smiled, razor bright. Even more handsome than the rumors. Adrian might have died right there. Mother, please just leave. She breezed in further, tossing her designer handbag on the counter like she'd always owned the place. No. I've worried myself sick. You don't get sick. Metaphorically, darling. She slid off her sunglasses and their identical amber eyes met. Then she turned on Dante. So you're Dante DeLuca. To Adrian's horror, Dante looked nearly polite. Ma'am. Great jawline, Mara observed. Straighten up. He did. Traitor. Adrian groaned. Why are you listening to her? She's scarier than you, Dante said. Thank you, dear, Mara replied smoothly. You're both impossible. Mara circled Dante, graceful as a panther, inspected him, actually circled him. Adrian considered emigrating. You've lost blood recently. You favor your left. Your shoulders freshly cut. You smell stressed, underfed. She ticked off like a shopping list. Dante blinked. Yes, ma'am. And you slept in my son's bed. Dead silence. Dante, impossibly, recovered first. Yes? Mara beamed, victorious. Mother. She waved him off. Better honesty than an awkward lie. We didn't... TMI, darling. I can literally smell the rest. Adrian made an inhuman noise. Dante just grinned, absolutely reveling in the chaos. Somehow, Adrian knew he'd be hearing about this morning for the rest of his life. Dante just grinned. He was loving every second of this chaos like he'd been waiting for it. Something in Adrian just knew. He was never going to live this morning down. Not ever. Mara took over the kitchen like she'd been plotting it all week. Turns out, she'd brought groceries. Of course she had. The haul was exactly what you'd expect. Fresh fruit, those intimidatingly clinical blood packs, pastries, because she knows what lifts a mood, herbs that wouldn't send Adrian to the hospital, and fancy coffee nobody in the room would drink except she liked the smell. You tracked me here? Adrian asked, half exasperated. I'm your mother, Mara replied, as if that explained everything. That's not an answer. She just tilted her head. It's the only one you're getting. Mara moved around the cramped kitchen with this absurd, cat-like elegance, unpacking everything into cabinets Adrian had never quite gotten around to organizing. Dante leaned back against the counter, arms folded, watching her like she was some rare animal. You're calmer than I expected, he said eventually. Mara shot him a look. Calm about my son bringing home a wounded alpha criminal heir? He nodded. Yeah. Oh, I'm furious, Mara said, her voice all sugar while she sliced strawberries, but I save my fury for when it does real damage. Dante couldn't hide the way that impressed him. Adrian threw his hands up. Why is everyone here bonding except me? Because you're dramatic, Mara tossed back. Because you care too loud, Dante added, grinning. I officially hate this apartment, Adrian complained. It's adorable, Mara said. It is not adorable. It's got personality. It's got mold. Breakfast felt less like a meal and more like being held hostage by a loving tyrant. Mara served them both like she was offended by the idea either might starve. Dante got eggs, toast, fruit, and vitamins. Adrian got his blood packs, yogurt, supplements, and one pastry for emotional resilience. I don't need emotional pastries, Adrian protested. You do, Mara told him, not even glancing up. Dante was trying not to laugh. Mara caught the smirk. You, she said, waving her knife at him. Don't encourage him. Dante snapped, yes, ma'am, like he was ready to enlist. Adrian frowned at him. You obeyed her quicker than me. She radiates consequences. She really does. Mara looked pleased. Once their plates cleared, something sharp moved in. The softness drained away. Mara set down her coffee, still untouched, and folded those elegant hands on the little table. Now, she said coldly, tell me who's trying to kill you. Family dispute, he answered. Mara waited. Meaning? My cousin Raphael made his move sooner than expected. And your father? Something ugly flickered in Dante's eyes. Unclear. Mara nodded like that settled something for her. Do you trust Luciano? No. Good. Adrian looked between them, frowning. Wait, have you two met before? Both Mara and Dante answered at once. No. Yes. That earned them both a narrow-eyed look. Mara sighed. Not socially. Oh, reputation, yes. She turned to Adrian, almost fond. Darling, this city's one big ecosystem. Your dad flips real estate, I go to charity galas, mobsters launder money through art auctions. We all orbit each other. Adrian groaned. That's a sentence designed to give me hives. You're delicate, Mara teased. I am not delicate. You fainted at 12. Bad lilies. I was poisoned. Dante actually lost it, laughing into his coffee. Adrian glared at him. Quit encouraging her. Not a chance. Then Mara's eyes went flinty as she looked at Dante. You can't stay here. The bottom dropped out from Adrian's stomach, just like that. Dante went very still. I know, he said, quiet. No, Adrian blurted at the same time. Both of them turned to him. He immediately wanted those words back, but it was too late. Mara's eyebrow shot up. Oh? Adrian fumbled. I mean, if he leaves now, Raphael's people could find him. They're probably watching. True enough. And if he stays, Mara pressed. He's hidden, Adrian insisted. In a one-room apartment that reeks like mating season, she said, straight-faced. Adrian choked. Mother, no. Dante pressed a fist to his mouth, laughing so hard he nearly lost control. Mara just went on, relentless. You two smell like you've been sharing both sleep and blood, and maybe half your secrets. The silence was total. Adrian wanted to sink through the floor. Dante looked back and forth between mother and son before slowly settling his gaze on Adrian like he was seeing him for the first time. That is not true, Adrian protested, voice barely there. Mara patted his hand, so gentle it was almost mean. Honestly, it's adorable that you think I'm blind. After Mara left, Off to make calls and ruin men quietly, Adrian locked the door and slumped against it like it might stop the world from coming in. Dante sat at the table, arms crossed, impossible to read. Neither said anything for a long minute. Then Dante broke, voice teasing, "Mutual fixation." "No," Adrian deflected. "Shared sleep? Circumstantial. And blood exchange? Medical reasons only." Dante's mouth tugged up, crooked and knowing. "You forgot the bit about mating season." Adrian pointed as if that might stop him. "Can you stop being attractive for 5 minutes?" Dante actually laughed, then winced, clutching his ribs. Adrian's annoyance disappeared, all concern in a blink. "Sit back." "I am sitting." "Don't argue with a medic." Adrian crossed the room, lifting Dante's shirt to check the bandages. No blood, but the muscles were strained. He'd moved way too much. "You need rest, and you need honesty." Adrian's hand stilled on Dante's shirt hem. "That sounds a little ominous." Dante glanced up at him, expression open in a way that made Adrian feel way too exposed. That put him right between Dante's knees, closing the last inch of space. "I should leave," Dante murmured. "Your mother's right." Adrian's chest squeezed tight. "She usually hates being right. This isn't safe for you." "It wasn't safe before you." Dante's eyes narrowed a fraction. "What are you talking about?" "It means I still get heats, still need blood, still get fetishized by every alpha who thinks Omega means open season," Adrian said, harsher than he meant. "I still hide most of who I am because it's just easier." He hadn't planned to say any of that. Some dam just cracked. Dante reached out and held Adrian gently, hands warm and steady at his hips. Not grabbing, just grounding him. "And now?" Dante asked. Adrian's throat tightened. "Now I've got a criminal in my apartment who actually yells at me for skipping meals." Dante just grinned and brushed his thumbs across Adrian's sides through his shirt. "Tragic. Horrible. You really should toss him out." "I'm thinking about it." Dante's smile softened. "Liar." There it was again. Even when Adrian wanted to argue, Dante already knew. Adrian stared at him, really looked. The scar at his brow, the purple bruise beneath his ribs, the way cruelty hadn't erased the kindness in his touch. Something inside him unclenched. Adrian leaned in first. The kiss was supposed to be a test. Maybe a mistake, just brief. His lips barely brushed Dante's, but the world went off axis. Dante sucked in a breath and surged up, the chair screeching back. One hand cupped Adrian's face, the other on his waist, and then Dante was kissing him. Fiercely, deeply, like he was desperate and cautious both at once. For about half a second, restraint held. Then it broke. Adrian's hands fisted in Dante's shirt. Dante made an unguarded, hungry noise against him. Their scents hit the air. Sweet omega bloom. Sharp alpha spice, that undercurrent of old blood and memory. Adrian's knees buckled. Dante's grip tightened instantly, holding him up. Only when Dante winced, pain breaking through, did they finally separate. Adrian jerked away, horror flooding in. "You idiot." Dante was breathing hard, eyes wide and dark. "Worth it." "You busted your stitches for a kiss? I'd risk worse for another." Adrian stared and then, dignity be damned, admitted that was an insanely good line. Dante grinned at him. "Thanks. I hate you." "No," Dante said, soft and close, moving in again. "You really don't." Adrian didn't argue. This time he knew it was the truth. That night, someone tried to break down Adrian's door. The first blow rattled the whole frame. Both men shot to their feet. Dante pushed Adrian behind him without thinking. Adrian bared his fangs, ready. A third hit split the wood. A sneering voice from the hallway. "Open up, little Omega. Raphael wants a word." Dante turned cold. Adrian could feel it, like winter blowing in. Dante reached back and grabbed Adrian's hand. "Bedroom," he ordered, quiet but solid. "No. Adrian. No." The fourth crash busted the lock. The door smashed open, slamming into the wall. 3 men stepped in, big, armed, already acting like they owned the place. One held a crowbar, another a knife. The third lounged at the threshold, casual but definitely packing a gun. They thought they'd find easy prey. Instead, they found Dante DeLuca radiating violence in the middle of the room, and Adrian at his side, fangs exposed, eyes wild. The crowbar guy blinked. Adrian offered a pleasant smile. "You just cost me my security deposit." Then he moved fast and low, striking the crowbar man behind the knee. The joint caved with a scream. Before the guy could even fall, Dante was on the next one. Wrist trapped, then elbow snapped with a sickening crack. The knife clattered away. The gunman swore and went for his weapon. Adrian leapt across the table, light but fast. He hit the gunman in the chest, driving him into the broken doorframe, fangs at his throat before the gun cleared its holster. The taste hit wrong. Cheap booze, old sweat, nothing like bonded blood, but pain and terror made the man freeze. He dropped his gun with a yell. Adrian spat instantly. "Tastes terrible." Dante grabbed the back of Adrian's shirt, hauling him to safety right as the thug swung. Then Dante stepped in, punched the guy hard in the throat, and he went down, choking. Suddenly, it was all over. The room filled with groans and the remnants of violence. Adrian's heart battered his ribs. The smell of blood, fear, sweat, and Dante filled the air. Dante spun, eyes wild. "Are you hurt?" Adrian blinked like he'd just been struck. "What? Are you hurt?" 3 armed men had stormed in, and the only thing Dante cared about was him. That was Dante for you, always steady, always unswerving, even with chaos snapping at his heels. "No," Adrian managed, breath tight in his chest. Dante finally exhaled, relief sparking in his eyes just for a moment. Then something fierce and dangerous shifted inside him like a switch flipping. He seized the man with the crowbar, yanking him upright by the hair, never mind the blood streaking down his own injured leg. "Who sent you?" Dante's voice could have frozen fire. The man gave a pitiful whimper. On the floor, the gunman gasped out, hand pressed to his wounded neck. "Raphael, Raphael, Jesus Christ." But Dante didn't even glance at him. His eyes drilled into his captive. "How many know this address?" "No one else, I swear," the man's voice cracked. Dante flicked a glance at Adrian, seeking something only he could give. Adrian drew in a deep breath, sorting through the tangled mess of fear, pain, and the sharp, acrid scent of urine. Nothing rang false. "He's telling the truth," Adrian said, voice flat. All 3 intruders just stared at him, faces drained of color. The gunman made the sign of the cross, muttering, "Oh my God." Adrian wiped his mouth with the back of his hand, mouth twisted in something halfway between a sneer and a grimace. "Don't be dramatic." For a split second, Dante's mouth twitched, almost smiling, almost. His face went cold again. "Leave," he said, voice like gravel. The 3 scrambled. Pain meant nothing against sheer terror. Even the one with the busted elbow moved, stumbling toward the door with panic speed. In less than a minute, they were gone. Bodies slamming the broken door, feet slapping down the stairwell, gone in a scatter of panic. The silence that followed wasn't gentle. It pressed in hard. Adrian didn't move, not at first. He stared at the wreckage, door hanging off its hinges, streaks of blood smeared across the floorboards, a pistol glinting near the wall, and Dante, still but not steady. My landlord is going to be unbearable, Adrian muttered, voice thin. Dante barked out a startled laugh, quick, unexpected. But then his face shifted, and he swayed, all that violent energy suddenly unraveling. Adrian caught him just in time. Dante! The fight, the adrenaline, it had masked the smell. But now it hit Adrian hard. Blood, fresh, metallic, and thick. Dante sighed, the stitches split and bleeding. You absolute idiot, Adrian snapped. Dante's lips lost all their color. That's fair. Sit down. Dante shook his head, grinning weakly. I'd rather stand dramatically. You're bleeding on me. He gave a ragged chuckle. Also fair. Adrian, hands trembling, not from hunger this time, but pure, white-hot fear, practically hauled Dante to the bed. He ripped at Dante's shirt. The bandage was soaked through, the wound a mess of angry red, blood welling faster than Adrian could catch it. He grabbed anything he could find, towels, gauze, pressure pads. He pressed down, desperate. Stay awake. I'm trying. Try harder. Dante's hand fumbled, then found Adrian's wrist, fingers warm but starting to slip. Look at me, Dante said. Adrian kept fussing with the blood, not trusting himself to meet those eyes. I am looking at the wound. Dante's tone sharpened. Adrian. That got his attention. He looked up, right into those steady, fearless eyes. Even now, even bleeding out. They came because of me. Adrian met his gaze and didn't flinch. They came because men are stupid. I have to end this, Dante said, like he'd already decided. No. You can't keep being collateral. Adrian's voice surged up, raw and loud. I am not collateral. The shout was so sharp it made the air buzz. Even through the panic, Adrian pressed harder on the wound, his hands slippery and desperate. Dante clenched his jaw, but stayed right there. Didn't budge an inch. I chose this, you know, Adrian said, and this time his voice cracked, thin at the edges. I keep choosing it. You need to stop acting like I'm just an ottoman you dragged into the lion's den by accident. Dante's expression faltered. Something about it gave, too tired to keep fighting him. His breath shuddered out, barely a whisper now. Fine. You're scary furniture. Adrian let out half a laugh, pulled right from his chest, wet and rough around the edges. He hadn't felt tears in his eyes since the break-in, but here they were anyway. God, I hate you. Dante flashed a lazy, crooked smile, broken, but real. His hold on Adrian was shaky, maybe, but it was still there. No, you don't, he murmured. It wasn't long after, maybe 10, 15 minutes, when Dr. Salazar showed up, Mara in tow. Adrian's panic text must have gotten through. Come now. Bleeding again. Also home invasion. The kind of message that doesn't need nuance. Mara swept in first, surveyed the busted-in door, and just said, Oh, good. A project. Like it was just another puzzle to tinker with. She strutted right over a blood trail in spotless cream heels and pressed a kiss to Adrian's forehead. Are you hurt? She asked, sharp as a knife. No, he said, voice thin. Excellent. She pivoted to the crumpled gunman sprawled on the floor. And this one's ours now. Right behind her, Salazar had already pulled on gloves, snapping them into place. I told you to keep him unstabbed, didn't I? Adrian shrugged. You said a lot of things. And you listened to none of them. Salazar shot back, already working, swift, efficient, putting Dante back together, checking his pulse, glancing in his eyes, shooting something into his arm. Meanwhile, Mara had stolen Adrian's phone. In seconds, She was dialing up contractors, biohazard cleaners, and someone named Lucian who apparently owed her after Monaco, always keeping the network alive. Adrenaline wore off, and Adrian ended up slumped against the kitchen cabinets, hands sticky and red, shivering uncontrollably. The kind of shaking that eats your bones. Mara knelt in front of him. She tipped his chin up. "You bit someone," she observed. "He was rude," he mumbled, swallowing hard. She smiled, a flash of something fierce and proud. "Good boy." "Mother." Her hand softened against his cheek. "You defended your home." The words gentled, almost a whisper now. "You protected your mate." Adrian froze. The words settled between them, heavy and dangerous. Across the room, Salazar gave a snort. Mara waved him off. "I am not," Adrian started. "You already scent-marked each other 3 rooms ago," she interrupted, blunt as ever. "We kissed once," Adrian protested. Salazar glanced over, not missing a beat. "Twice, judging by your hormone levels." Adrian groaned, dragging his hands over his face. "I'm leaving the continent." Mara patted his knee. "After the baby, perhaps." He nearly choked. "What baby?" She just waved a hand airily. "No immediate baby, I'm manifesting." An hour and some strange nap later, Dante came to, groggy, wound stitched up, enemies cleared away, and Mara very carefully feeding him soup. He stared at the spoon, then at her, then shifted his gaze to Adrian, curled on the couch and wrapped so tightly in a blanket he might never come out. "What happened?" Dante asked. "You bled," Mara replied smartly. "I won." "That isn't helpful." Adrian, muffled under the blanket, groaned. "It never is." Dante tried to sit up, but Salazar squashed him down with 2 deft, very unimpressed fingers. "Stay horizontal, airboy," Salazar ordered. So Dante looked at Adrian instead. "You okay?" Even through all the haze and pain, that was his first question. Always was. Adrian nodded. Dante let out a long, shaky exhale, actually relaxing for the first time since the whole mess started. Mara, of course, missed nothing. She set the soup aside and clapped, elegant and smug. "Lovely. You're in love. Crisis resolved." Adrian snorted. "We're not in love." But at that exact moment, Dante, still half drugged, said, "Probably." Adrian shot him a betrayed look. "Turncoat." Dante's smile was soft, dangerously honest. Too tired to lie. Night fell, and Mara would not be talked out of staying. She claimed the only chair. Salazar left, swearing he'd have words if they bled again. Someone boarded the door. The apartment started to smell like antiseptic, soup, and unresolved feelings. Adrian slid onto the mattress beside Dante, careful with every movement. Not much room, really, but disaster had a way of making people close. They lay there, silent, until Dante rolled his head on the pillow. "You were magnificent," he whispered. "I yelled about rent," Adrian muttered. "You bit a gunman," Dante said, like it was the highest compliment imaginable. He tasted terrible. "You stood with me," Dante breathed. Adrian's throat got tight. "You stood with me first." Dante reached under the blanket, searching, and linked their fingers. Just that. Simple, certain, grounding. "I'm leaving tomorrow," Dante said, voice suddenly steady. The words landed hard. Adrian flinched. "What?" "Raphael, my father, the rest of it. I have to finish it," Dante said softly. Adrian's grip tightened, desperate. "No." Dante turned, pain plain on his face, but his eyes didn't leave Adrian's. "Come with me." Adrian gaped. "What?" Not into the fight. Come somewhere safe first. My lake house, outside the city, guarded, private, with sun-shaded windows. He paused, a ghost of a smirk. You'll like it. It's villainous, but tastefully so. My classes. You missed 2 already. You tracked that? I noticed things, Dante said. Voice weighted with more affection than Adrian could fight off. He hated the flutter in his chest. Before he could answer, Mara's voice drifted over from her chair. Go with him. Both of them startled. Were you awake this whole time? Adrian demanded. No, Mara replied smoothly. Why are you like this? Because I'm always right. Silence grew thick, and then Dante squeezed Adrian's hand so gently he almost missed it. Come with me. Adrian stared out across the room, at the boarded-up door, at the shadows tangled with memories of blood and fear and survival, and at Dante, at the man who kept choosing him. If your lake house is ugly, Adrian whispered, I'm leaving. Dante laughed, just a rustle in the dark. It's beautiful. Now, that's what villains always say. It has windows, floor to ceiling. I burn. They're UV shielded. Suspicious. There's a library. Adrian paused, temptation breaking through defiance. From her chair, Mara made a sound of pure self-satisfaction. Don't use books against me, Adrian snapped into the darkness. It also has heated floors, Dante offered, a sly twist to his tone. Adrian squeezed Dante's hand tighter and closed his eyes. You manipulative bastard. Dante didn't even blink. Yes. Are you coming or not? Adrian didn't let go. Just for now. Mara clapped, sharp and smug. I hate both of you. They left just as the sky started to lighten. Mara claimed Dawn had a tactical advantage. Adrian said it was just plain rude. The city was washed in pale silence, the streets slick from last night's rain. Waiting outside, a hulking man named Tomas sat behind the wheel of a black SUV, radiating the scent of cedar soap and an air of rock-solid loyalty. He nodded at Dante, then nodded at Adrian. Then, eyes landing on their battered apartment door, raised his brows. Rough night? That pretty much covers it, Adrian said. Tomas almost smiled. Mara leaned in and kissed Adrian's cheek, then Dante's. Boundaries meant nothing to her, clearly. She stepped back, serious. Call me every day. No. I'll call you every hour then. That's worse. Correct. She turned to Dante, all warmth edged with a warning. If he gets hurt, I'll make myself into a legend. Dante didn't flinch. I understand. Mara seemed satisfied. She retreated with a nod. Salazar, somehow appearing out of thin air, reached through the open window, shoving a brown bag at them. Antibiotics, painkillers, suppressants, iron tabs, and something to calm you down when you inevitably make poor decisions. Thank you, Adrian said. Salazar scoffed. It's not for you. And disappeared again. Adrian watched him walk off. I know the worst people. Dante squeezed his hand. You do. Consider me added to the list. The drive out to the lake house was about an hour, and with each mile, Adrian felt his chest relax. Trees replaced tower blocks. Silver glints of water flashed between the pines. The roads narrowed, the air cleaned up. Iron gates led them up a winding drive through thick forest. Adrian stopped faking indifference pretty quickly. The house, standing above the lake, was all glass, stone, and rich, dark cedar. Harsh modern shapes met the softness of trees. Wide decks and terraces, tall windows riding the morning sun. It was annoyingly beautiful. Adrian frowned, pretending it didn't matter. It's acceptable. Dante's lips quirked, amused. Glowing endorsement. Don't get used to it. Inside wound him up even more. Open ceilings, honey-colored wood, shelves crammed with books, a kitchen that could fit Adrian's whole apartment, comfortable, deep furniture, art that looked expensive but didn't try too hard, and quiet. No city anywhere, just water's hush, the rush of wind through trees, and the tick of his own nerves. Adrian paused in the foyer, a little lost in how much space there was. Dante watched him, trying to read something in his silence. You good? It's enormous. We can keep you to one wing if that helps. Not helping. Dante moved closer, gentle now. Then tell me what you need. There it was again, the question landing like it actually mattered. Adrian swallowed. Blackout curtains in my room. Done. Coffee. You hate coffee. I like the way it smells. Dante smiled, faint but real. And? Adrian glanced around the vast, peaceful house, then back at Dante. Honestly? Yeah. I want to know you brought me here because you want me safe, not just hidden. Something in Dante's face finally dropped its armor. I brought you here, he whispered, because the idea of you bleeding out on that apartment floor almost stopped my heart. Adrian simply forgot how to breathe for a second. Dante touched his jaw briefly, then retreated before the moment got too dangerous. Come on, he said roughly, voice breaking the spell. I'll show you your room. Adrian's room looked out over the glittering lake. The bed could have slept 6. Ensuite bath. Bookshelves half-filled already. Blackout curtains that shut out the world. At the window, he stared at the water shifting between the trees. It's obscene, he muttered. You're welcome. Dante stood in the doorway, arms folded. You're not staying in this one? No. Why? Because you like having corners, and you always check the exits. Adrian blinked. You noticed? Dante shrugged, no pride in it, just fact. I noticed enough. Adrian looked away, a little stung. That's getting on my nerves. I hear that a lot. The first 2 days felt strange, too quiet, too gentle after all the noise and chaos. Dante did business calls in his office, voice suddenly colder and sharper than Adrian had heard before. Tomas circled the grounds like a friendly boulder. Meals appeared courtesy of staff and sometimes Dante's surprisingly skilled hands. Adrian filled his hours with study, wanderings on decks, naps, and slow, tentative healing. His heat symptoms faded. The suppressants finally worked again, but something else crept in. So he missed Dante whenever he left the room. It was mortifying. He found himself eavesdropping for footsteps, sniffing out Dante's cologne from room to room, glancing up every time a door clicked open. By the 3rd day, the longing burned in him enough that he finally stopped lying to himself. Dante spent most of one afternoon behind his office door, and Adrian grew restless and sour, snapping at dinner about overcooked salmon like it was a crime. It's perfect, Dante said. It's dry. It's not. It is, emotionally. Dante set his fork aside, studying him. You missed me. Adrian nearly choked. No. You get meaner when you're lonely. I'm always mean. Not this mean. Adrian glared. Something softened in Dante's face. I missed you too, he said quietly. All the anger left Adrian at once, draining out and leaving him embarrassed. He stared at his plate. Oh. Dante slid his hand across the table, palm open. Adrian placed his own hand in it without thinking. Dante's grip, warm, steady, felt safer than any place, any apartment. Home stopped being a location and became a person, which felt dangerous in a whole new way. Rain hit hard that night. Thunder shook the lake, low and endless. Adrian surfaced from sleep, already half panicked, not sure why, until a sudden flash of lightning threw ghostly light across the curtains. Storms, Spain, his first heat, that locked hotel room. His body remembered before his mind caught up. He jolted up, breathing too loud. Everything was too silent, too dark. Another crash of thunder, and he moved, bare feet, sleep ruffled, across the hall, opening Dante's door without thinking or knocking. Dante was already up, lamp on, gun in his hand. They looked at each other. Dante put the gun down fast. Nightmare. Storm. Dante's expression shifted, softer, all sharpness gone. Come here. Adrian should have resisted, but instead he crossed the room, climbed into the bed. No protests, no sarcasm. Dante wrapped him up, blankets and arms, grounding hands stroking Adrian's back with slow, steady comfort. Thunder kept rolling outside. Dante's heart under Adrian's cheek beat steady as a drum line in the quiet. You hide weapons in your pillow, Adrian muttered. You break in during storms. I use the handle, at least. Brave of you. Adrian's laugh shook, escaping before he could swallow it. Dante's hand moved up and down his back, nothing needy. Just kindness. Strangely, it felt even more intimate than sex. When I was 14, Adrian whispered, my first heat started during a storm in Spain. Dante just listened. I thought I was dying. My father panicked. My mother almost bit a pharmacist. He felt Dante's suppressed laugh in his chest. I was terrified, and I felt ashamed for being terrified. Dante held him a little tighter. You never need to be ashamed with me. The words punched deep enough that Adrian had to hide his face in Dante's throat. That was disgustingly romantic. I'm a quick study. You really should be worse at this. Nope. Lightning flashed. Adrian didn't startle this time. When morning came, they were tangled up again, arms and legs everywhere. This time, Adrian draped mostly over Dante's chest, Dante's hand resting under Adrian's sleep shirt, curved warmly against the skin. Neither of them moved. Sunlight snuck around the curtains. Outside, rain faded to a slow patter. You're drooling on me, Dante said, voice scratchy with sleep. I would never. You are. Prove it. Dante's hand glided higher, almost unconsciously. Both froze. Adrian's breath caught. Dante stared, suddenly awake. Good morning, he said quietly. Touch me again when you say that, Adrian whispered, and I'll be impossible. Tempting. Slowly, carefully, Dante did exactly that. A simple, lazy touch, nothing indecent, nothing rushed. But Adrian's whole body reacted like every nerve was suddenly alive. He made a small sound he'd deny forever. Dante stilled. Too much? No. The answer was embarrassingly quick. Dante's eyes darkened. Too little? Adrian glared, his only leftover shield. You're infuriating before coffee. And you're beautiful when you're irritated. That's manipulative. Dante's hand stayed, warm at Adrian's back, not going any higher, not asking for more, just holding on. It was somehow more intimate than any grabby demand. Adrian propped himself up to look at Dante. You flirt like you've never been told no. I have. By who? You? That should have deterred you. It did the opposite. Adrian cut him off with a kiss, ending the words right there. Dante needed no further encouragement. Sleep warm, grinning at first, then deeper. Hunger in it now. One hand slipped up Adrian's spine, the other cradled his neck. Dante rolled them, gentle and careful of what hurt, settling Adrian on his back. Just that pressure, that weight, made Adrian shiver. Dante braced up on his elbow, still holding back as if afraid to be too much. "You smell incredible," Dante murmured at Adrian's jaw. "That's suspicious. It's just true. It's conditioner. It's you." Adrian's instincts purred. He hated them. Loved them a little too. Dante kissed, slow, down his neck, pausing near the vulnerable spot under Adrian's ear. He didn't bite, just breathed there, asking if Adrian wanted more. Adrian turned his neck, offering. The surrender of it almost made his heart explode. Dante's breath hitched. Reverently, he kissed the spot, and it nearly undid Adrian completely. "Cruel," Adrian whispered. "You offered, and you knew what that would do." "Yes." "You're no good." "I'm trying to be gentle." "That isn't helping." Dante laughed quietly, lips pressed to Adrian's skin. Then, of course, Dante's phone started ringing. Both of them froze. Adrian stared at the ceiling. "Ignore it." "I can't." "This is more important." Dante pressed a hard, promising kiss to Adrian's mouth, then grabbed for the phone. "DeLuca." His tone shifted on a dime, ice cold and focused. And just like that, Adrian missed him, even with Dante still tangled in the sheets. Dante listened, looking grimmer by the second. "No one moves without my word," he snapped. A pause. "Watch him. Don't touch him." Another beat. "I said do not touch him." He hung up and faced Adrian, feeling the warmth returning slow as winter sunlight. Adrian raised an eyebrow. "Raphael?" "Yeah." Adrian's gaze sharpened. "What's happened?" "He's holed up in one of the old warehouses. He's not alone. 3 loyalists with him." Adrian looked skeptical. "You actually trust this information?" "I do." Adrian didn't let up. "How?" Dante's jaw set, hard enough you could almost hear his teeth grind. "My father gave it to me." That hung thick in the air, a weight neither of them could dodge. Adrian shifted upright, dragging his shirt into place, maybe searching for dignity or just something that felt normal. So Luciano's made up his mind. Raphael's a liability. Adrian's eyes narrowed. "That's murder by proxy, you know." "It usually is," Dante said flatly. A breath of silence, then, "And you?" Dante held Adrian's gaze, not flinching, not blinking. "I'm deciding whether I turn into my father today." The city drove a hum of tension between them. Even the road seemed to vibrate with nerves. Adrian refused to stay behind. Dante shot him down. Adrian threatened to call Mara. Dante folded. Now, rain lashed odd neon shapes across the black windows. Tomas drove in grim silence while Dante and Adrian perched in the back like loaded guns. "You should have stayed," Dante gritted out again. "You should stop telling me," Adrian shot back, not missing a beat. "This isn't your fight. You barged into my home. Men broke my door. I bit a gunman. Adjacent. Doesn't even cover it." Dante's mouth jerked into something resembling a smile in spite of himself. "This is dangerous." "Dante, I'm sitting next to you. I figured that out." Dante turned, taking him in. The suit was all storm clouds and hunger, cut sharp enough to make reality blur. His hair combed back like he was trying to make up for all the control he'd lost. A watch caught the glow, a neat, small flash of wealth. Adrian really hated how good he looked, how much of the heir he suddenly was. Dante's voice dropped. "If things go sideways, Thomas takes you and leaves. No arguments." "No," Adrian said. "That wasn't a suggestion." Adrian bared a hint of teeth, enough for warning. "That sounded like an order." "It is." "I reject it." Dante sputtered. "You can't reject." "I can reject anything. I'm multi-talented." From the driver's seat, Thomas coughed. It sounded suspiciously like laughter. Dante groaned, pressing his fingers to the bridge of his nose. I'm being punished for my arrogance. And, Adrian said evenly, for interrupting my breakfast. The warehouse district smelled like metal trying to drown, old concrete sweating through decades in oil that would never wash out. Tomas parked behind rusted loading bays. 3 black SUVs already waited, rain pelting their roofs. Men fanned out, armed, careful, waiting. As Dante slid out, a few looked relieved, others wary, but all tense and tethered to him, like he was some kind of gravity. Then they spotted Adrian, who stepped out, shoes splashing. He smoothed his coat and tossed a challenge into the cold. You can stare. I'm decorative. One guy blinked. Another aimed his eyes at the sky and tried not to smile. Dante's hand found Adrian's lower back. The touch, possessive, sure, protective, was enough to sting a little. Stick by Thomas, Dante murmured. Noted, Adrian replied, then Dante leaned in just for him. Don't bite anyone unless you have to. No promises, Adrian said, because honestly, why lie? Dante's mouth twitched, almost a smile. Then he walked forward. He changed as he crossed that broken concrete, shoulders straightening, voice all command. He felt less like a man and more like an answer to a question no one wanted to ask. Orders came quick, precise. Men moved before he'd finished speaking. Adrian watched him, fascinated and unsettled, both. This was Dante, too. The steel under soft things, the knife wrapped in velvet. Warehouse doors rolled open on a sea of darkness, crates, leaking skylights, and Rafael De Luca above on a catwalk, gun in hand. He looked like Dante might have if life had chosen cruelty instead of control. Same dark hair, same sharp lines, but his eyes were meaner. Well, Rafael called down, you brought the pet. Guns came up like a chorus. Adrian's blood went ice cold, but Dante didn't even turn. Careful, cousin. His tone was mild and dangerous. Insults from up high always sound compensatory. A couple men couldn't hold in snorts of laughter. Raphael's jaw snapped tight. You always were everyone's favorite. No, Dante said, voice sharp enough to cut. I was everyone's future. That hit. Hard. Final. Raphael dipped his gun lower. At least father finally agrees. The ugly truth laid bare. Luciano had thrown his sons into the flames, hoping one would finish the other off. Adrian's stomach twisted. Dante only looked tired, the wordless ache of it showing through. You could have walked away, Raphael shouted. You could have taken your pretty Omega and run. Adrian bristled, every nerve raw. Dante's posture turned razor sharp. He has a name. Silence. Even Raphael hesitated. Dante stepped into full view, rainwater dripping from his coat's hem. Whatever this family taught us, it ends now. Come down alive or die up there, yours to choose. Raphael fired and everything came apart, shouting, gunfire, sparks. Tomas yanked Adrian behind a concrete pillar as chaos detonated. Absolutely not, Adrian yelled, voice shrill. Stay down, Tomas snapped. I hate field trips. Adrian's nerves buzzed. Shots, screams, the thunder of bodies crashing into action. Adrian poked his head out, saw Dante moving, vaulting crates, taking catwalk stairs 2 at a time. Raphael was retreating, firing backward. Panic, pain, metal, blood, fear, a chemical blur. Then something new. Gasoline, fresh and thick. Far across the bay, Raphael's loyalist was pouring fuel toward wooden pallets. Fire! Adrian screamed, but no one heard. He ran before he could overthink it. Somewhere above, Dante bellowed his name. Too late. The loyalist flicked a lighter, grinning. Adrian slammed into him before flame kissed fuel. They tumbled, lighter skidding, hands and fangs in fury. Adrian got the lighter away, took a punch that rattled his skull, blood in his mouth. Then Thomas appeared, swift, efficient. One blow, and the loyalist wasn't a problem anymore. Above, gunfire split the air. Then, quiet. Adrian's heart stumbled. "Dante!" Bootsteps echoed, a rush of metal and intent. Dante appeared, dragging Raphael, battered but alive, blood at his temple, eyes gone ice. Adrian swayed with relief so sharp it hurt. Dante took one look at Adrian's swelling bruise, and everything in him sharpened and focused, like the storm in the center of his bones. He crossed the space, dropped Raphael to his men, and took Adrian's face in both hands. "Who touched you?" "That's your opening question." Adrian blinked. "Who?" "It's fine." "Adrian." "The lighter guy." Dante glanced at Thomas, zip-tying the man to the floor, then kissed Adrian right there hard, fast, desperate. The kind of kiss that left gunmen staring at the ceiling. Adrian broke away, dazed. "You're not all right. You ran at gasoline. I had a plan. It was chaos. It worked, didn't it?" Dante thumbed the bruise on Adrian's jaw, voice dropping to a dangerous, broken hush. "I was more scared for you than for myself." The truth burned worse than the kiss. Adrian traced a bloody line at Dante's temple. "You're bleeding. So are you. Disaster." Dante grinned, all defiance and exhaustion. "We're alive, though." Behind them, Raphael barked a bitter laugh. "Savor it. Father never meant for either of us to walk out." The warehouse seemed to stop breathing for a moment. Dante froze. Adrian understood this wasn't the end, not by a long shot. Luciano had set the pieces. They were still just players. Nobody moved. Rain drummed on broken glass above, a slow, steady dripping somewhere deep in the shadows. Raphael knelt, wrists tight in plastic, blood trickling, face alight with hatred. Dante's men all watched, awaited orders, eyes swinging from one brother to the other, and something shifted. Adrian felt it like a cold wind in his spine. Power slid across the room, hunting its next owner. Dante wiped blood away with the back of his hand, then looked down at Raphael. His eyes were scarily calm. "How many?" Dante asked. Raphael's smile was full of broken pride. "Enough." "That's not an answer. It's what you get." Dante went forward so smooth it was nearly silent. Tomas shifted in front of Adrian without being told, ready for whatever next. Dante squatted to Raphael's level. Now they were eye to eye. One bruised, but defiant. One bloodied, but still holding the control. "You ambushed me in an alley. You sent men to Adrian's house. You nearly lit this place up with 20 people trapped inside." Raphael spat blood at Dante's shoes. "You had everything first." Dante didn't even blink. "I was born first." Raphael's voice cracked. That was enough. It vibrated with old poison, years of Luciano's shadow. Adrian finally saw it. Raphael hadn't been born cruel. Dante hadn't been born cold. They'd both been starved, just trained to survive in different ways. Dante learned endurance. Raphael learned to draw blood first. Dante rose. To the cars. His men moved. Raphael laughed. "Think he'll let you walk out?" Dante didn't dignify that. He looked at Thomas. "Get Adrian out now." "No," Adrian said. Dante's head half turned, just enough that Adrian caught the flash of fear smuggled under all that composure. "Please." Not an order this time. A plea. Adrian hated it for how much it worked. He sighed, defiant as ever. I'm leaving on my own, for the record. Raphael found his voice. That's my brave little Omega, he taunted. Without thinking, Adrian crossed the space and punched Raphael square in the mouth. A collective hush. Raphael toppled. Adrian shook out his knuckles, wincing. Hurts me more than you, trust me, but worth it. Someone snorted. Someone else tried not to. Dante squeezed his eyes shut, almost like he was praying, then opened them again. His face was a mess of pride, terror, affection, ready to fight, too. Outside, he growled. Adrian grumbled, not very convincingly. Yeah. But honestly, there was some relief tangled in his words, like he couldn't untangle all the feelings happening at once. In that giant empty warehouse, with rain in the air and the smells of blood and gasoline still clinging to everything, being alive still meant something, at least for now. The rain had faded into mist. Gray light spilled across the loading yard. Tomas steered Adrian toward the SUV, but his eyes kept moving. Rooftops, windows, everywhere trouble might be waiting. Your family's exhausting, Adrian muttered. I'm not family, Thomas said. You drove me here. That counts. Thomas glanced at him just once, then out of nowhere. My mother would agree. Adrian stared. You're joking. Rarely. That was great. Thank you. They reached the SUV. Adrian should have climbed in, but he didn't. Something pulled him back toward those warehouse doors. He listened, not with his ears exactly. Metal, wet pavement, the low grind of engines 2 streets over. Too many engines. Something's wrong, he said. Tomas was already reaching for his gun. How many? He asked. I don't know. Cars, east side. Black sedan rolling into view, then another one right behind it. 2 SUVs on their tail. Too polished, too neat. This wasn't random. This was Luciano sending his answer. Tomas shoved Adrian behind the nearest car's engine block. Down! Gunfire cracked out before Thomas even finished, glass flying, men shouting from inside the warehouse, doors slamming open, Dante's crew spilling into crossfire. The yard turned into a nightmare. Adrian crouched low, pressed behind steel, ears ringing, senses packed with smoke and blood. Tomas fired steady bursts just overhead. Stay put. Everyone says that to me. Because you never do. Yeah, fair. Adrian peered under the car. Running boots, bodies dropping, rainwater swirling pink down the pavement. He spotted shiny black shoes step out from the lead sedan. No hurry, no nerves. Someone popped open an umbrella. Luciano De Luca. Older than Dante by decades, but they could have been carved from the same stone. Same cold eyes, same hard lines. Time and power had chiseled Luciano, but Dante still had some softness clinging to him. Luciano glanced around like he was watching a play. Then he zeroed in on Adrian, right behind the car. And he smiled. Adrian felt pure ice crawl through him. Now he understood exactly why Dante was scared of turning into this man. Luciano strolled forward in the rain, bullets cracking and guards closing ranks around him, untouchable by design. Adrian Mercer, Luciano called out, sounding almost friendly. You've made things much more interesting. Get in line, Adrian shouted back. Luciano actually laughed, a sharp, expensive sound. Now I see why Dante likes you. I bet that keeps you up at night. It does now. Somebody hit the ground hard nearby. Adrian flinched. Nothing escaped Luciano. Come here, Luciano said. We can end this quickly. Adrian bared his fangs. You first. Luciano's smile went thin. So young. So sure love makes you important. Before Adrian could shoot back, a roar split the chaos. "Dante!" He exploded out of the warehouse, coat gone, shirt blood-soaked, gun already fired empty and cast aside. He moved straight for his father. Men tried to stop him. Dante hit one so hard the guy spun down, broke another with a slam to the throat. Tomas left cover, firing, adding his own force to the mess. Luciano just sighed, looking bored. "You always choose emotion over structure," he said as Dante stalked closer. "You taught me structure," Dante said. "Adrian taught me better." He punched him. Not a soft son's punch, a real blow. Luciano staggered back. The yard went silent. Nobody in that family touched Luciano anymore, probably not for years. He touched his split lip, almost curious. Then he smiled. "There you are." He pulled a pistol from his coat. Adrian screamed Dante's name. A gunshot snapped the air, and Tomas tackled Dante sideways. The bullet sliced through Thomas's shoulder. They hit the ground. Dante rolled, grabbed Tomas's fallen gun, fired once. Luciano's umbrella shredded. His guards swarmed. Luciano, always strategic, fell back. Never one to risk himself when hired men could do it for him. Engines flared, car doors slammed. The convoy sped off under covering fire, disappearing into the rain and smoke as suddenly as they'd come. What was left? Groans, shattered glass, a ringing silence. Adrian ran to them. Dante was already kneeling by Tomas, hands jammed against the wound, blood pumping out between big fingers. "It missed the lung," Adrian said, dropping to the other side. "I can smell lungs." Both men stared. "What?" Adrian snapped. "I can smell lungs." Tomas actually laughed, then nearly passed out. "Pressure here," Adrian said. Dante pressed where he said, no hesitation. It always surprised him. It still did. People showed up fast. Medical kits, towels, everything moving with the weird efficiency of a crew used to patching up war. By the time Tomas was stable and loaded into the SUV, Adrian's hands were stained to the wrist. When the doors finally slammed shut and the car pulled away, Dante stood out in the rain, empty and silent. Adrian touched his arm. Dante flinched, then looked at him. Everything Dante used to hide himself was gone. Without his mask, he just looked younger and honestly more exhausted than Adrian had ever seen before. "He shot Tomas because of me," Dante said. "No," Adrian told him. "Luciano shot Tomas because he's rotten." "I brought you into this." "You say that like I wasn't already in." Something hard moved in Dante's jaw. Adrian leaned in, not backing down. Rain slicked Dante's hair to his head, and there was blood. Too much blood. But it wasn't the only thing hanging in the air. Love hovered there too, silent and almost fragile in the darkness. Adrian felt weirdly vulnerable, as if something essential had been stripped away. Dante looked at him like the whole world had shifted and he hadn't found his balance yet. Then, with shaking fingers, Dante touched Adrian's bruised jaw. "You love me?" Adrian rolled his eyes, bringing defiance to cover fear because, honestly, terror deserved a little flair. Unfortunately, a disbelieving, broken laugh scraped out of Dante. He almost couldn't believe it himself. And then he kissed Adrian, right there in the storm-wrecked yard. Rain poured over them. They were blood-stained, watched by armed men who were suddenly very interested in pretending to look away. When he pulled back, Dante pressed his forehead to Adrian's. "I've loved you since the alley," he whispered. "That's medically impossible. I'm adaptable. You stole that from me. I'll steal worse." Adrian smiled, eyes stinging. This was too much, and still not enough. But reality crept in. Dante's expression hardened as he glanced toward the road where Luciano had disappeared. "What now?" Adrian asked, low. Dante's arms snaked around his waist, not tentative at all, more like a promise than a reassurance. "Now," Dante answered, his voice sharp as a knife, "I stopped being his son." By the time they got back to the lake house, it was after midnight. Nobody spoke much in the car. Tomas was still in surgery, Salazar working at a private clinic. Half of Dante's men had scattered to tighten defenses. Phones buzzed and rang constantly. Names tossed sharp and fast. Accounts frozen. Warehouses seized. Loyalties whispered and tested like secret passwords. War, Adrian realized, didn't always roar and explode. Sometimes it sounded like numbers clicking in spreadsheets and clipped, worried voices, boring, then terrifying. He sat beside Dante in the back, their shoulders pressed together. Neither moved, as if letting go would mean more chaos. At some point, Dante's hand found his, held on until the car stopped. When they stepped into the house, the silence felt strained, not peaceful at all, just a breath no one had let go. Dante shrugged off his bloody, soaked jacket, headed straight for the kitchen. Adrian trailed him. "What are you doing?" "Feeding you. I can feed myself." "You forget when you're stressed. That's private information. You almost fainted at the clinic." "That was just dramatic lighting." Dante rummaged in the fridge. He pulled out a blood pack, heated it one-handed, passed it to Adrian without looking up. Adrian took it. He was tired and hungry and, honestly, shocked by how easily he let Dante care for him. Drinking, he watched Dante at the counter, shoulders braced, head down. The house hummed around them, fridge, rain easing, floor creaking. Adrian tossed the empty pack away. "You should sit. I should kill him." No anger, just something cold and final under the words. Adrian crossed the room, slow. "Dante. My father sent men to kill us." "Yeah. He used Raphael as bait. I know." "He shot Tomas." Adrian's voice stayed steady. "Yes." Dante looked up, and there was something new in his face. Not rage, but a dark kind of permission. "I know exactly how to end him," Dante said. "I know where he sleeps, which guards are his, which ones are for sale, which doors are never locked." A cold twist ran through Adrian. "And if you do?" Dante's jaw clenched. "He dies." "That's not what I asked." A pause, longer than Adrian liked. "I become efficient." That truth stung. Adrian closed the distance, pressed both hands to Dante's face, forcing him to meet his eyes. "You're not your father because you know how to be cruel," Adrian said, soft. "You're different because it costs you." Dante closed his eyes for a second. When he opened them again, just a little bit of the ice had melted. "What if cost stops mattering?" Adrian squeezed his face, forcing a smile. "Then I'll be absolutely unbearable until it does." A laugh slipped out of Dante, rough and real. Adrian kissed him, quick and certain. "You don't get to do tragic and dramatic by yourself anymore." That sounds like a threat. "It is," Adrian said, grinning because he had to. The storm changed everything. That night, Adrian went to Dante's room, trembling from thunder and old fear, thinking he'd just find comfort, and he did, but also something else. Dante offered warmth, slow hands smoothing over his back, steady breath, the kind of safety Adrian hadn't realized he could hunger for. Morning crawled in with rain on the windows, and Adrian woke sprawled across Dante's chest. Dante's hand sat warm under Adrian's shirt, palm steady on bare skin. Neither moved at first, just breathing. Finally, Adrian spoke. "You're staring at me." "I'm appreciating survival," Dante murmured. "That's dramatic." You like dramatic. I tolerate it sometimes. Dante's smile softened his whole face. He traced higher up Adrian's back, slow, a silent question. Adrian's answer was a kiss. It started off playful, but heat grew, and soon the room filled up with quiet intensity. Adrian's omega sweetness and Dante's darker alpha scent twining everywhere, until even the sheets felt alive. Dante rolled him gently under, always gentle with Adrian's bruises and hesitations. "Tell me if anything feels wrong," he whispered. It all started playful, a little teasing, a bit of laughter, but the mood changed, thickening into something heavier, sweeter. Adrian's omega scent drifted through the quiet, blending with the darker, rougher notes of Dante's alpha, until even the sheets felt alive between them. Dante rolled him under, slow and careful, always mindful of every bruise, every fragile bit Adrian tried to hide. "Tell me if anything feels wrong," Dante whispered, barely more than a breath. "You like dramatic?" Adrian shot back, half teasing, half honest. "I tolerate it selectively." Dante's hand slid up the curve of Adrian's back, each inch a silent question. Adrian answered with a kiss, real, eager. That broke the teasing spell and set something deeper buzzing between their bodies. Air thickened. Scent and breath turned everything molten. The room was painted with longing, Adrian's sweetness, Dante's depth, until the bed felt like it might break under the weight. Dante moved with that same cautious reverence, touching only where it was allowed, always gentle. "You tell me if anything feels wrong," he said again, this time with his lips almost touching Adrian's. Adrian's laugh, soft, shaky, almost made Dante lose control. "It currently feels unfairly right," he muttered. They peeled away layers, shirts tossed first, then skin, mouths exploring, slow enough to make even the clock outside jealous. Adrian expected to feel consumed, devoured, but that's not what Dante gave him. Dante moved like Adrian was something rare and precious, tracing every scar with his lips, finding every place Adrian tried to hide, kissing away the shame and the years of being alone. Whenever Adrian went quiet or shy, Dante whispered, "Look at me." And when Adrian did, there wasn't a drop of pity on Dante's face, just awe, just want. Their first time together wasn't desperate or wild, it was slow, almost reverent. Dante never let go of his hand, anchoring him with every squeeze, every little murmur. "You're all right," Dante repeated over and over, as if he could will away every fear Adrian still had. Adrian gripped him harder. "Keep talking," he said, needy in a way he'd never been before, and Dante did, whispering whatever words came to mind. And when Adrian crashed over the edge, pleasure stripped him raw, tears slipping out before he could stop them. Dante kissed them away, steady and patient. After they lay tangled together, skin, sweat, blankets, all while the rain tapped quietly at the window, Adrian stared up, dazed, chest heaving. That was annoyingly meaningful, he managed. Dante laughed softly, his mouth pressed against Adrian's throat. "It was good for me, too." "I know, you looked smug." "I was overwhelmed, actually." "You can be both, you know." Dante kissed the center of Adrian's chest, voice low. "I've never been gentle with anyone before." Adrian turned, half smiling. "That's not true." "It is," Dante insisted. "You're gentle with me every single day." Dante's face went soft and unguarded, so rarely seen. Before he could cover it, Adrian kissed him again. Days after, everything shifted. The old rhythms got rewritten. They still argued and poked at each other, still snapped over coffee or Dante's habit of micromanaging. But their fighting had a softness to it. Now, sometimes Adrian would find himself in Dante's lap during tense meetings, getting his fingers kissed absent-mindedly while Dante talked business on the phone. Most nights, they slept tangled together, finding comfort under the same blanket, and whenever the world calmed down enough, they'd make love. Sometimes the slow kind, sometimes sharp with hunger, but always with that same shocky wonder that they were actually here, together, building whatever this was. A few weeks later, Adrian glared at a piece of toast like it had personally offended him. He barely noticed Dante walk in, still half on a phone call, but when Dante saw Adrian's face, he hung up without a word. "What's wrong?" he asked, coming closer. "I hate bread." "You love bread," Dante frowned. "I know, doesn't matter." Dante squinted. "You're pale." "I'm always pale." "You smell nauseous." "That's rude," Adrian snapped, but then broke for the sink, retching dryly. Dante was there instantly, steady hands holding his hair back, soothing circles brushed on his spine. When Adrian finally slumped down, wiped out, he muttered, "This is your fault." Dante blinked, looking genuinely confused. "That narrows down nothing." Adrian huffed through his teeth. "Salazar. Now." Dr. Salazar marched in a few hours later, looking like he regretted every life choice that led him to dealing with them. He didn't speak much, just ran the tests. After a heavy pause, he sighed, took off his glasses, and said, "Well?" Adrian immediately pointed at him. "If you say stress—" "You are pregnant," Dr. Salazar replied. "All business." Silence dropped like a stone. Dante sat down so fast he missed the edge of the chair. Adrian stared, then shook his head. "No." "Yes?" Salazar replied. No, Adrian insisted. "Very yes." Adrian looked at Dante, searching his face for answers. Dante just stared, tears in his eyes, back and forth, from Adrian's stomach to his face and back again. "You're sure?" Dante asked the doctor, voice almost pleading. Salazar handed him a printout. "I did not come here for comedy." Dante got up, crossed the room, and dropped to his knees in front of Adrian, pressed both hands to Adrian's waist, holding him like something holy. "I don't know how to do this," Dante whispered, so small it almost wasn't there. Adrian's chest squeezed painfully. "Neither do I." Dante let out a shaky laugh. "We'll be terrible together." Adrian touched his face, gentle. "No, we'll learn." That night they stood on the lake terrace beneath a sky full of stars. Danger still existed. Luciano still waited. The world remained unfinished. But Dante's hand rested over Adrian's belly, Adrian's fingers tangled with his, and for once the future felt larger than fear. "You know," Adrian said quietly, "this all started because you got stabbed in an alley." Dante kissed his temple. "No," he said, "it started because you chose me." Next morning, Adrian woke before dawn to the strange sensation of being watched. He opened one eye. Dante was propped on one elbow beside him, hair rumpled, bare chest warm beneath the blankets, staring at Adrian's stomach with the solemn concentration of a man studying ancient prophecy. Adrian groaned and pulled the pillow over his face. "No." Dante lifted the pillow. "Yes." "It is 6 a.m. "Yes." "You are hovering over an embryo." "Yes." "You're being weird." Dante considered that. "Yes." Adrian snatched the pillow back. "Good. Self-awareness is growth." A warm hand slid under the blanket and rested over Adrian's abdomen again. Not possessive, reverent. Adrian hated how much it affected him. It's never too early for emotions. "That is the worst thing you've ever said." Dante laughed quietly and kissed the corner of Adrian's mouth, then softer. "How are you feeling?" The question had become routine since the diagnosis. How are you feeling? Hungry, tired, dizzy, sick, scared, loved? Adrian stretched slowly and considered. Annoyed, healthy, nauseous, expected, hungry, fixable. He rose immediately. Adrian caught his wrist before he could escape. Dante looked back. Stay another minute. The words came before pride could stop them. Dante's expression gentled so quickly Adrian regretted everything. He slid back down beside him and gathered Adrian close. 1 minute became 15. Pregnancy turned Adrian into a mystery even to himself. 1 hour he wanted salted crackers, orange juice, and Dante's hand in his hair. The next, he wanted to bite anyone who breathed too loudly. Certain foods became unbearable. Others became urgent. He once woke Dante at midnight because he needed strawberries immediately in winter. At a remote lake house, Dante put on boots and coat without complaint. You are not driving an hour for strawberries. I know a greenhouse. That sentence is insane. You're carrying my child. You don't know that yet. I'm preparing to be correct. He returned 40 minutes later with strawberries, whipped cream, and a potted herb Adrian had once casually mentioned liking. Adrian cried for 10 full minutes. Dante panicked. Why are you crying? You bought basil. You like basil. That's not the point. What is the point? I don't know. Dante looked toward the hallway. Should I get Salazar? No. Your mother? Absolutely not. He sat on the bed beside Adrian, still in boots, and let himself be clung to while Adrian sobbed into his shoulder over produce. Later, Adrian would blame hormones. Privately, he knew it was because no one had ever shown up for him so completely. Outside the house, the world remained sharp-edged. Luciano De Luca had retreated, but not surrendered. Businesses tied to the syndicate were being audited, raided, frozen, or quietly transferred. Old allies declared neutrality. New enemies smelled weakness. Dante spent hours each day in the office, dismantling what his father had built, not replacing it, ending it. He sold shell companies, leaked records, turned evidence over through channels Adrian wisely did not ask about. Some nights he emerged from those calls colder than usual, quieter. Adrian learned not to ask immediately. Instead, he would bring tea he didn't drink for the smell, sit in Dante's lap uninvited, and wait. Eventually, Dante always spoke. 2 of my father's captains disappeared. By choice? No. Do you know who? Yes? Will you tell me? No. Fair. Or... He sent flowers to the clinic where Thomas is recovering. That sounds threatening. It was orchids. That sounds expensive, threatening. Dante smiled despite himself. That became Adrian's private mission, to drag warmth back into him every time the family shadows tried to settle again. Tomas returned 3 weeks later with his arm in a sling and enough stubbornness to alarm doctors. He arrived carrying flowers for Adrian. Adrian stared. These are for me? You're the one carrying the heir. I am carrying a fetus, not succession. Thomas considered. Same thing. You've been around Dante too long. Dante took the flowers from Thomas, sniffed them suspiciously, and handed them to Adrian. Do they smell all right? Lilies? Thomas asked. Adrian recoiled. Get them out. Thomas looked offended. They're elegant. They're poison. They're common flowers. They're aggressive flowers. Dante was already halfway out the door, bouquet clutched like he had a mission. Tomas just watched him leave. Then he looked over at Adrian with that squinty, amused stare of his. He's gone soft, Tomas said, barely moving his lips. but the judgment hung in the air. Adrian couldn't stop the smile, not that he really wanted to try. He's gone better. Tomas's face shifted. There was something in it now, approval mixed with old wisdom that smelled faintly of tobacco and memory. Good. Mara had said she'd be at the lake house for 2 nights. She put that in scare quotes, then turned up with enough bags to put an embassy delegation to shame. She'd come, and 48 hours later the kitchen smelled different. The table was actually neat, and 2 security guards had vanished from the rotation because, apparently, Mara did not believe in hunched shoulders. She found the nursery closet, started reorganizing, kicked off a nursery plan, and when Adrian pointed out, "There is no nursery," she just shrugged. "There will be." Adrian stared at her, helpless. "We don't know if we're staying." "You are." "We have not discussed that." "You're discussing it now." She said it like saying something made it real. Dante, traitor, conspirator, whatever, was right there in the thick of it, flipping through paint swatches with her. His focus was criminal. Adrian gaped at the 2 of them. "You're helping her?" he said. Dante, deadpan. "It's efficient." Adrian looked at the sample. "It's pink." Dante didn't look up. "It's warm clay. It's pink." Mara dismissed that with a wave. "Boys can see pink, darling." "That is not the issue." Salazar by the fire didn't even bother to look up from whatever dense thing he was reading. "The issue is that you like all this, being domesticated, and you hate admitting it." Adrian hurled a pillow in his direction. Salazar caught it, perfect, of course, without so much as a glance. The whole dance of the new normal kept rolling 50 different ways. The first time Adrian felt anything, real movement. It was ridiculous, honestly. He was 7 months along, felt round and unfamiliar, barefoot in the kitchen, crunching cereal straight from the box because everything else felt like a science experiment. At first, he thought it was indigestion, but then there it was, a flutter, like something tiny and insistent slipping beneath his skin. He stopped moving. Another tap. Popcorn going off in his belly, and the cereal box hit the floor. That got everyone's attention. Dante came running in from wherever he'd been, flanked by 2 terrified guards. "What happened?" he asked, freaked, but trying to hide it. Adrian just pointed at himself, wide-eyed. "It kicked me." The guards left. Smart, smart men. Dante came closer, reverent, like the floor had turned to glass and beneath it was a lake. "Can I?" he asked. Adrian just nodded. Dante knelt, hands careful and warm on Adrian's skin, and for a second nothing happened. Of course, all the drama for nothing. Adrian scowled. Rude. But then, bam. The baby kicked right under Dante's palm. Dante sucked in a breath. You could see something break open in his eyes. Everything else he'd ever been flickered away, and all that was left was father. Just that. "It's real," he whispered. Adrian looked back. "You thought I was faking 7 months?" "No, I don't know what I thought." Dante pressed a soft kiss where the baby moved, then another. When he looked up, his eyes were wet. And it was happening so often now that Adrian couldn't even pretend to be surprised. "You made this?" Dante said, like it was a miracle. "We made this." Dante grinned his lopsided, tired grin. "You did the hard part." "That is true." He stood up, kissed Adrian slow and grateful, enough to make Adrian dizzy for a second. When they pulled apart, Adrian couldn't help it. "You cry a lot for a feared crime prince." "I'm retired." "You're 30. Emotionally retired." Night, when it fell, settled them together on the back terrace, wrapped in blankets, staring out at the black water until the distant lights started to look like stars. Dante had one arm around Adrian, hands splayed absently over the place where their child moved, a comfort and a promise at once. "You're quiet," Adrian murmured. "I'm thinking." "That's always risky." "I know." They sat like that, just breathing. Finally, Dante said, "I used to think family was blood and obedience." Adrian leaned back. "And now?" Dante's hand pressed gently, protectively. "Now I think family is whoever stays gentle when the world gives them every reason not to." Adrian felt the tears push up, soft and ridiculous. "You know, that was disgustingly beautiful." Dante smiled, "Picked it up from you." "All you learned from me is sarcasm." "Got that too." The baby kicked. They both laughed. After, the quiet didn't feel empty, it felt full, like maybe peace could last longer than a few borrowed days. The morning crept in, pale and uncertain. Adrian barely slept. Too much adrenaline, too much energy, too many dreams about tiny hands and sharp fangs and furniture ruined in adorable chaos. He woke up to Dante already awake. Of course, the man had apparently given up the concept of REM sleep. He was propped on one elbow, hair everywhere, face so serious it could have launched a coup. "What now?" Adrian yawned. Dante glanced down at Adrian's stomach. "I think I felt something." Adrian squinted at him. "There's either a clump of cells or the world's worst stress hormones in here." "Yes." "It's not medically possible for it to be practicing judo." "Yes." "You're being weird." "Acceptable risk." Dante didn't seem bothered. Adrian yanked the blankets over his head. "Not before breakfast." Dante just pulled them back down, way too gentle for the level of mischief in his eyes. "You need breakfast." Adrian groaned. "You sound like my mother." Dante smiled. "She's persuasive." "That's not a compliment." "Depends what you're used to." Adrian glared up at him. "Your family is a never-ending study in odd rituals." Dante just leaned down, kissed him, and then pressed another, down, softer, right below Adrian's navel. It was so gentle Adrian actually forgot he was supposed to be combative, sarcastic, self-protective, just for a second or two. Dante looked far too pleased. "Weaponizing affection," Adrian accused. "Absolutely." "Monstrous." That day, the clinic came to them. Turns out wealthy criminals don't really wait in reception. The mobile imaging unit showed up before Adrian was fully awake, Salazar supervising the process like he was running a heist. Mara swept in half an hour later with an armful of pastries because, when in doubt, bring carbs. "You're not the patient," Adrian said. Mara just said, "I'm emotionally involved." He rolled his eyes. "You're emotionally dramatic." "Same thing." Salazar pointed to the reclining exam chair. "Lie down." Adrian made a face. "I hate your tone." Salazar didn't even blink. Spent years perfecting it. Dante hovered. He was trying so hard not to look frantic that he ended up vibrating. Adrian jabbed a finger at him. "You're making the room anxious." "I'm being quiet." "You're very, very loud on the inside." "Point taken." Mara shoved a pastry at Dante. "Eat this before you faint. Make it look good if you do." He took the pastry. No argument. The traitor. Then came the cold gel, Adrian hissed. Because did medical technology have to make everything uncomfortable? Salazar not looking up. "That's temperature, not assault." The tech moved the wand and gray shapes shimmered on the monitor. A mess of pixels. Glitched out snow, nothing that felt like hope or certainty. Adrian's throat closed up, old fear elbowing through the present. And then, there it was. That tiny rhythmic flicker. Heartbeat. The room went still. Salazar's mask cracked. Mara wiped at her eyes. Dante made a sound Adrian had never heard before, something raw, unguarded, completely undone. There were tears, big, undeniable ones. Mara sniffled and tried to say something dignified. "I'm not crying," she announced. Adrian, watery. "No one asked." Salazar pressed a tissue into Adrian's hand. "Use this or drown elegantly." Adrian half laughed, half sobbed. The screen showed a tiny, perfect outline. Something real. Something theirs. Dante crossed the room one cautious step at a time. Like every floorboard might break under this much hope. "Can I touch him?" he asked, glancing, not at the doctor, but at Salazar. Adrian said, "You mean me? Can you touch me?" Dante blinked, reality slowly catching up. "Yes. You first, then the child." He put his hand over Adrian's, shaky, unsteady, and then pressed it gently to the spot on Adrian's belly where the technician had pointed, warm, reassuring, even if he didn't know what he was doing. Dante's voice came out small, softer than it had been in ages, like all the armor finally slipped away. "I don't know anything about this." Adrian's mouth twitched. "Great, because if you did, I'd be doomed. You'd never let me hear the end of it." Dante let out this choked laugh, teary and messy. Mara wasn't even pretending not to cry anymore. She was just full out sobbing, undignified and loud. Salazar muttered, "Hopeless, all of you." But no one paid attention. Why would they? After everyone left, the house didn't just settle, it changed. The walls were the same, sure, the lake still stretched out quiet and old, but the future felt unrecognizable. Adrian stood on the terrace, wrapped in a blanket, just staring at the dark sweep of water, alone. He heard Dante coming before he saw him, his footsteps giving him away. Dante, silent and big, stepped up beside him. They didn't bother with talking at first, just stood there. Sometimes no words are the only thing that makes sense. Finally, Dante asked, "Are you scared?" Adrian let the air drain out of his lungs. "Yeah, I am." "Good." Adrian shot him an incredulous look. "I'm sorry? You're glad about that?" Dante's face was smooth, too composed. He was holding himself together by sheer force. "I'm scared, too." Adrian stared, waiting. "I still don't know how to keep both of you safe," Dante said. His voice was almost a whisper now. "I've got no clue how to build something soft, anything. I know it's just stone, cold and strong, not tender." Something stung under Adrian's ribcage at that. The honesty cut straight through. He moved closer, reached for Dante's hand. "Then we'll both do it badly, side by side." Dante closed his eyes for a split second. When he opened them, that lonely, haunted look he carried around had eased. "I love you," he said, plain and spare, nothing to hide behind. Adrian's heart gave one traitorous leap. "Picking the most dramatic location for that, huh?" Dante almost grinned. The lake insisted. "It's a good lake," Adrian conceded. A soft laugh from Dante, and then Adrian reached up, tracing his jaw. "I love you too," he admitted, not entirely able to resist the urge to joke, much to my everlasting disappointment. "That word means nothing now," Dante teased him. "It means I'm sentimental and irritated at the same time," Adrian shot back. "It means I get to call you mine. It mostly means I'm thinking about pushing you in the water." He was smiling now. Dante kissed him before he could go on, slow and sure, like there was all the time in the world. When they parted, Adrian rested his forehead to Dante's shoulder, fitting himself into the warmth. "Tell me something practical." Dante blinked. "Like what?" "If the baby's a boy and he inherits your ego, can we return him?" Dante smiled, pressing his nose into Adrian's hair. If it's a girl and she's as mouthy as you are, civilization's probably doomed. Fair enough? They just stood there, soaking in gold as the sunset spilled over the lake. For a little while, the house was quiet. Guards watched the doors. Phones kept breathing secrets. Luciano was still alive somewhere, war sitting on the horizon, patient as a predator. But underneath Adrian's heart, there was another heartbeat now. For once, the future wasn't just something to survive. It was something they might actually get to build. 43 minutes of peace. Adrian counted. He could admit it. Not on purpose, not really. But after Dante carried him back inside, kissed him messy in the kitchen, stubbornly made a ridiculous breakfast for both my fragile people, Adrian started keeping score, half out of spite. At minute 21, Dante tried to sneak extra fruit on his plate. At 26, Adrian threatened to break his fingers. At 32, they were back to kissing. He couldn't remember who started it. At minute 43, Dante's phone rang, shattering the hush. The mood snapped. Dante shifted, the softness gone. Not a lover now, not a future father. He was all business, all sharp edges. He picked up, not even bothering with a hello. Yes. Silence. Adrian watched him freeze up, that coldness sliding back into place. Who authorized that? Dante's voice could have cracked glass. Pause, then firmer, icier. No. If anyone touches Raphael without my say-so, they answer to me. He hung up. Adrian let his fork clatter onto his plate. What now? Dante didn't look at him, not at first. He was staring through the window like he could see straight out to where trouble was brewing. Luciano's house is splintering, Dante said. That's good, Adrian prodded. It's chaos. Some want to turn. The others want to stick by the old guard, even if that means proving loyalty with violence. Some think killing Raphael forces me back into their grip. Adrian's stomach twisted tight. Is he reachable? No. Too quick, too clean. Adrian narrowed his eyes. You thought about it. I didn't. Oh, you did. Don't even lie. Dante didn't say anything for a beat. Then he's safe. Safe isn't untouchable. Ugly truth sitting between them. Adrian stood, ignoring the dizziness at first. Dante crossed the room, his hands already reaching. I'm fine. You almost fell. I am being graceful. He studied Adrian, looked worried. You're pale. I'm always pale. It's charming. Dante ignored him, gently guiding him back to his chair. Adrian went along with it, mostly because his hands were warm and maybe a little because everything felt different now, fear included. Fear had another center of gravity. By noon, the house turned into a war room. Men in and out, phones ringing, cars rumbling in the drive. Tomas limped in, refusing to stay in bed, his arm in a sling and murder in his eyes. You should be resting, Adrian told him. I was bored. You were shot. Didn't stick. Adrian shot Dante a helpless look. Why do you hire people like this? Without glancing up, Dante said, I inspire loyalty. Bad example, clearly. Tomas's mouth twitched on the edge of a smile. Mara swept in, dragging bags, inviting herself. This is my house now. No, it isn't, Dante said. She ignored him. Yes, it is. Adrian, tell him I'm medicinal. You are noisy, Adrian muttered. Exactly. Essential for morale. She kissed Adrian's cheek, immediately knelt and addressed his stomach like it was royalty. Hello, tiny overlord. Don't say air, please, Adrian groaned. Hello, tiny, emotionally disastrous baby. Somehow that's even worse. Dante, pinching the bridge of his nose, gave up. Evening brought rain, not harsh, just soft and insistent. The lake looked like black glass. Adrian found Dante in the library, tie loose and whiskey untouched, staring into space, almost frighteningly still. Adrian let the door click shut. "You're brooding, attractively even." No reply. Adrian crossed to him. Dante finally met his gaze, voice mild. "I failed." "For what? Not solving world peace?" "For not stopping all this sooner," Dante said, gesturing toward the mess beyond the walls. "My father built an empire of fear. I went along, thought I could be different, clean by distance alone." Adrian perched on the desk. "Looking for sympathy?" Dante shook his head. "No." "Good, because I have none to spare." That almost made him smile, just a little. Adrian nudged, softer. "You grew up inside the machine. Now you're trying to take it apart while the parts are still in motion. That's not simple. I should have dismantled it a long time ago." "Maybe. But you're also not a miracle worker." Dante blinked at him. "You're not very comforting." "I don't do comfort. I specialize in calibrated honesty." He moved closer, hands on Dante's shoulders, forcing eye contact. "You aren't your father," Adrian said, firm. Dante's jaw set hard. "You can't be sure." "Yes, I can." "Prove it." "Because when you found out we might have a child, you cried like the universe gave you back something you'd already lost," Adrian said quietly. Rain battered the windows again. Dante reached, hesitant, like he was daring himself. One hand landed on Adrian's lower back, the other over his side. "It doesn't make me innocent. It doesn't need to." Adrian ran a hand over Dante's face, gentle. "It just means you get to make a choice. Today, tomorrow, whenever you need it." Something in Dante's face cracked, softened. He leaned in, pressed his face to Adrian's stomach, holding him, delicate, not wanting to break anything. "I'm not sure I can do this," Dante whispered, words muffled in fabric. Adrian tangled fingers lightly in his hair. "Neither can I." "You look sure." "I just lie with conviction." Finally, Dante let out a real laugh. Nothing staged, no careful distance. Just a burst of sound that belonged squarely to right now. He pulled Adrian onto his lap, brushing aside Adrian's weak protests with nothing but fondness. Adrian let himself settle, surprised by how much peace he felt in the strangeness. Rain tapped on the windows. No rousing speeches, no tense scheming or war talk, just Dante's heart thrumming steady against his cheek, a quiet promise that said, for this moment, everything was okay. Midnight crept in before the world shattered. Alarms cut through the calm, short, piercing. Blood-red light washed over the lower floor, painting everything urgent and harsh. Dante jumped to his feet before Adrian even understood what was happening. Shouting erupted from below, footsteps pounded, weapons cleared leather and snapped into hands. Adrian's own pulse hammered. "What's going on?" Dante had already moved 3 steps ahead. "Safe room. Now." I always hate hearing that. "Adrian." And just like that, the tone shut him up. Dante grabbed his hand, pulled him out into the hallway, urgency making everything blur. Tomas lunged up the stairs, gun drawn, jaw clenched. "Perimeter breach," Tomas called out. "Are they inside?" "Don't know yet." Behind him, Mara appeared wielding a fireplace poker with surprising authority. "Why the hell do you have that?" Adrian blurted. She didn't miss a beat. "Improvising." Dante thrust open a section of wall that should have been nothing but drywall and baseboard, a steel door behind it, marking out the bones of a hidden room. "Of course," Adrian muttered. "You built a villain house." Dante couldn't help it, grinning. "Told you it was tasteful." There he was, impossible, right down to the end of the world. Dante cupped Adrian's face, urgent. One hard press before pushing him inside. Stay with Mara. You're not leaving me here. I'm protecting you. Does it have to sound romantic? Gunfire snapped somewhere close. Too close. Dante's eyes went arctic cold, then just as fast melted as he looked at Adrian. I'll come back, he promised. He kissed him, fast and rough, then disappeared back into chaos. The heavy door thunked shut with the finality of a dropped stone. The new silence didn't really count as silence. There was always noise creeping through, running, radio squawks, another crack that could only be a gunshot. But being closed in with all that sound pressed against walls made the world inside feel stifling. Adrian spun in place. I hate this. Mara perched on a bench, composed and elegant, like this hidden bunker was all part of her social calendar. It's well insulated, she remarked without looking up. That's not the point. Climate controlled, too. Mother. She patted the seat. No shouting. The baby dislikes drama. There's actual violence happening. Correct, which is why we're here. Sensible room. Adrian gave up trying to stay still, pacing instead. The room was surprisingly roomy, reinforced from every side. Monitors glowed, streaming black and white shots of the property. Gates, hallways, the dark mouth of a broken window, shelves lined with water and supplies, emergency kits, ridiculous leather chairs that looked smug for no reason. Designer apocalypse furniture. They'd write articles about this house. Mara nodded, actually admiring the bunker. Tasteful. You're both out of your minds. Shouting filtered down from somewhere above, a fresh spike of panic. Adrian went rigid. Mara was up in an instant, steady hands finding his shoulders. Breathe with me. He managed to, just barely. Her sharp eyes had gone gentle, old, with something deeper than wit. He said he'd come back, Adrian. That doesn't guarantee anything. No, but it means he's trying. Adrian bit his lip. Fear used to feel simple and sharp, all internal. Now it sprawled everywhere, tangled up in Dante, the baby, a future half-built and just as easily lost. He pressed a hand to his belly. Mara covered it and squeezed. Breathe, darling. I am. You're shaking. That still counts, he insisted, and almost made her smile. Time turned mean, stretching 5 minutes into a torturous forever. Adrian fixated on the monitors, which didn't help. Camera 1 showed the front gates, guards dragging a shape across gravel. Camera 3 caught the messy break in the lower hall. Camera 5 was just blank darkness. Why's Camera 5 black? Cameras break sometimes, Mara offered, a little too bland. That sounds like a lie. It is. A jolt of sound, not quite gunfire, but close enough that the walls vibrated. Adrian edged toward the door. Mara blocked him. No, you're not stronger than me. Test that theory. Stubborn glared at stubborn. Centuries of predator versus desperate child he lost. You enjoy this? Immensely. Suddenly, the monitor for camera 2 flickered. Dante moved into view, shirt streaked with blood, a gun in his grip, upright but battered. Adrian's knees nearly buckled. He's hurt. Mara unshaken. He's still standing. That's not the same thing. The door unlocked, hissing open. Adrian dove through before it was halfway. Dante was just outside, drenched and bleeding, swaying a little from whatever had hit him, but still there. Adrian crashed into him. What happened? Dante caught him, arm tight around his waist. Hello to you too. You're bleeding. Surface wound. You say that too much. I missed you. Adrian forgot all his complaints. Dante's kiss was quick and fierce, proving he was alive, trembling a little, but here. Adrian touched the bloody cut near his brow, hands shaking. How bad? Very dramatic. You liar. Dante sobered. Minor breach. Outside team neutralized it. Luciano sent loyalists through the lower level. None made it to this floor. None? One did. Adrian narrowed his eyes. You're sidestepping. Yes. Mara glided out, wielding her poker like a scepter. You bled on my nice floors, she informed Dante. He actually looked sheepish. Sorry, Mara. Don't do it again. But she hugged him tight before stepping back. Dante blinked, almost young again. Mara let him go. Don't make that a habit. Yes, ma'am. Adrian crossed his arms. Why do you always listen to her faster than me? She's terrifying. I am carrying your child. She's still winning. He couldn't argue. Fair point. Salazar showed up an hour later with a med kit and sharp opinions. He patched up Dante. You people survive like fancy pigeons, he grumbled. Dante winced while Salazar mopped up blood. It's handled now. You're leaking on custom floors. It was a small group. You literally got a concussion last month. I'm functional. Salazar just turned to Adrian. See what I'm dealing with? Peacock energy. Dangerously shiny. Adrian gave a solemn nod. Full peacock. Dante's wounded look was only half fake. Mara handed Salazar tea, which, by the house rules, counted as affection. Later, when the house was mostly calm again, Adrian found Dante alone on the bedroom terrace. The moon painted everything silver. Cold air drifted off the lake. Dante's face was all lines and shadows, brow freshly stitched. Wordlessly, Adrian stepped beside him, wrapped a blanket around both of them. They stood like that, pressed together, until Dante's voice scraped out quiet and raw. I was afraid, he said. Adrian blinked. During the attack? No. When the safe room door shut, I kept thinking, if I didn't get back to you, if something happened before I made it back, his voice broke, soft as the water below. I'd never forgive myself. Adrian nudged him. That's pretty arrogant. Dante's brow furrowed, confused. What? You just assume I'd quietly let you rest in peace? I'd haunt you so fast. A short, unwilling laugh slipped from Dante. Adrian took his hand, pressing it gently over the curve of his stomach. The baby kicked, tiny, wild, undeniable. They both froze, breathing it in like religion. There you are, Dante whispered, voice shaking just a little. Adrian turned, studying the man beside him in moonlight, airborne in brutality, but the same man who cried at ultrasounds and held every flutter like a prayer. You're going to be a ridiculous dad. Dante didn't hesitate. Completely. So protective you'll drive us all mad. It's a risk. Over-emotional. He smiled. Absolutely. Good. Dante cupped Adrian's face, gentle now, all armor gone. I love you. No shields left, no jokes, just his whole heart laid out. This time Adrian kissed him first, still, deep, unhurried, a promise that felt bigger than words. They rested their foreheads together. I love you too. And seriously, if you die doing something reckless, I'll kill you myself. Dante's mouth curled into a real smile. That sounds like forever. It is. The world outside didn't care. Enemies and guns and the lake breathing under the moon. But between them, another heartbeat waited. Tonight, that was enough. 3 days later, morning sickness hit with a vengeance. Adrian shot out of bed, shoved Dante aside, and made it to the bathroom just in time. Dante scrambled after him, bleary-eyed. What's happening? Adrian barely managed. Your child is violent, between wretches. Dante knelt close, his movement steady, gathering Adrian's hair in one hand and tracing slow, soothing circles across his back until the worst of it passed. It was ridiculous, really, how unreasonably good Dante looked like this, comforting him at sunrise, shirtless and half awake, radiating calm from within the eye of Adrian's little storm. When Adrian stopped shaking, he slumped against Dante's chest, completely spent. Never again. His voice was a croak and a vow, but they both knew better. "You always say that," Dante replied, blank amusement in his voice. "No, but I mean it this time. We'll talk about it after you sleep." "There will be no talking, no revisiting. There's only regret." "Understood." Dante sounded as though he really did. A pause stretched long and significant between them. "Maybe one revisit." "Adrian," Dante said, half exasperated, half fond. "What? I'm emotional and weak. And honestly, a little dramatic." Dante pressed a kiss into Adrian's hair. "You're terrifying." Adrian grinned, finally at ease. "Much better." By noon, all Adrian wanted was olives, toast, and to be left alone in the dimmest room possible. By 1 o'clock, he craved Dante's touch, craved it in that needy, insistent way he always denied but never tried to hide. By 2, he found himself crying in the kitchen because the sunlight streaming through the window just felt too bright emotionally. Mara discovered him mid-sob, hunched over a bowl of cereal, shoulders shaking. "What happened?" she asked gently. "It's reflective," Adrian got out, gesturing at the ceiling as tears rolled down his face. Mara nodded with all the gravity of a seasoned philosopher. "Understandable." Dante appeared moments later, a tray balanced in his hands. He took in the scene with a sigh. "What now?" he asked. "The sun," Mara reported, completely straight-faced. Dante didn't even blink. "Close the west curtains," he told the staff, breezing through the house. Adrian burst into a fresh round of tears. "You believe me." Dante set the tray down, crossed to Adrian, and pressed a quick kiss to his temple. "Always a dangerous choice," he murmured, but the answer was always yes. Mara dabbed at her eyes in dramatic solidarity. "Nobody look at me." Adrian sniffled. "You're not crying." Mara deadpan. "I'm humid." The tray blessedly held tea, crackers, sliced fruit, and one perfect grilled cheese sandwich, cut on the diagonal just the way Adrian liked. He stared at it. "Did you make this?" "Yes." Dante wasn't humble about it. "You're controlling me with cheese." "Obviously." Adrian glared and ate every bite perched in Dante's lap, refusing to admit it actually helped. That evening, the mood shifted. The call came. Tomas didn't knock before entering the study, which never meant anything good. Dante was buried in paperwork, but looked up instantly. "What?" "Luciano wants a meeting." Tomas didn't waste a syllable. The whole room cooled, like someone had opened the wrong kind of window. Adrian, curled on the sofa under a blanket, slowly lowered his book. Pregnancy had made sitting a challenge worthy of blueprints and spatial reasoning. He requested, not demanded. Tomas's mouth thinned. Sent a message, tipped it in enough courtesy to be poisonous. Dante's voice went flinty. "Where?" "The old botanical conservatory." Adrian put his feet on the ground as if that would help. "That sounds like the worst kind of trap." Dante nodded just once. "It is." "Then don't go." Dante's eyes flicked over, cold and certain. "That's not up for discussion." Adrian threw his blanket down. "Incorrect. I'm discussing very hard right now." Tomas looked like he was wishing for a stronger ceiling or divine intervention. Without hesitation, Dante got up and crossed to the sofa, crouching right in front of Adrian, solid, unyielding, hands on either side of Adrian's knees. They'd had so many conversations like this. This was just another. I need to hear what Luciano wants. You already know what he wants, Adrian shot back. Dante didn't deny it. Yes. To control you, to bait you. He'll try to threaten us. Yes. Meet him on the phone. Don't give him what he wants. Dante's faint smile was all exhaustion. He picked public ground for a reason. So pick self-respect. Adrian always went for the jugular. Dante's lips pressed together, fighting down a reluctant laugh. Then it passed. The amusement was gone. If I refuse, he escalates. If you go, he escalates. Probably. Adrian watched Dante's hand, the way it found his, found the small swell of his stomach almost without thinking, just to be sure, just to make everything feel a little less terrifying. I'll bring security, Dante said. I'll come, Adrian snapped out. Dante's tone silenced the room. No. I wasn't asking. You're 7 months pregnant. I'm 7 months furious. Adrian. Dante. Tomas winced, sensing exactly how useless he was about to become. Tell him I'm right, Adrian ordered. Tomas mulled it over. I'd prefer not to be a casualty between the two of you. Useless. Cowardly, but maybe smart. The compromise was a mess. Dante would go inside. Adrian would wait outside, locked up in an armored SUV with Thomas and enough security to start a small war. Nobody liked it. That's how Adrian knew it was the only possible deal. The conservatory sat at the city's edge, an old glass and iron behemoth filled with winter shadows. Moonlight splashed over every curve and ledge. It looked romantic, but it never was for the people inside. Adrian watched from the SUV, impatience buzzing under his skin. This is idiotic, he muttered. Tomas just agreed, quiet and resigned. Yes. Why are men like this? Unclear, said Thomas, not even bothering to pretend. Dante stepped out of the lead car without a backward glance, all poise and command, his face unreadable as ever. Adrian found that extra annoying. He's rude, he pointed out to Thomas. He knows you're watching, Thomas replied. Not the same as looking back. The conservatory's lights blurred behind misted glass. Shadows moved. Doors closed. Adrian's heart stuttered and then refused to slow. He pictured a dozen worst-case scenarios, every one of them seized and scarred by Luciano's voice, his threats, his poisoned promises. Minutes dragged by, 5, 10, 15, long enough that Adrian nearly exploded from anxiety. He imagined Luciano charming Dante, threatening him, masking malice as diplomacy. There was no version where this ended simply. Then quick and sharp, the crack of a gunshot. The night came alive. Adrian was out of the SUV before Thomas could stop him. Stay back, Thomas bellowed. No. Already halfway across the road, a second shot rang out. Glass rained down from somewhere. Security charged forward. Adrian ran faster. He slammed into the entrance just as Dante burst through the doors, dragging Luciano De Luca by his collar. Both men were battered and bloody. Luciano's nose jutted at the wrong angle. Dante's fine coat ripped at the shoulder. Luciano managed to laugh even as he stumbled, defiant, mocking. You always were emotional, he sneered. Dante slammed him against the stone so hard it cut off the sound. No, he said, voice gone lethal. I was trained not to show it. Luciano's gaze flickered, catching something over Dante's shoulder. Adrian, standing exposed. It happened fast. A guard rose out of the dark with a gun. Tomas shouted. Dante spun and Adrian froze. Luciano's smile was pure venom. The shot blurred the world. Dante hurled himself into Adrian, knocking him behind the nearest pillar. Pain lit up his shoulder, blood everywhere. But he didn't let go. Not yet. Adrian's hands came away sticky with Dante's blood. No. He stared at them. No, no, no. Dante stayed braced over him, refusing to give an inch, even bleeding. I'm all right. His teeth were gritted, almost convincing. You are shot. Technically grazed. That's blood, Dante. Still true. But before Adrian could argue further, something twisted, sharp and wrong, deep inside. He gasped. Dante's focus snapped to him with deadly clarity. What? Adrian breathed, barely. The baby, fear undiluted, swept through Dante. Medic! He roared, so loud the glass shook in the frames. Everything after blurred into chaos, people shouting, hands on his arms, lifting Dante off him, hands grabbing Adrian, adrenaline and panic rolling through the air. Get him seated. Pressure here. Keep him upright. Where's Salazar? Call OB now, now. Adrian couldn't stand being touched by strangers, not on a good day, and definitely not now. In the middle of his panic, he almost clawed at someone's hand. I'm walking. His voice came out sharp, almost feral. Are you bleeding? Someone stammered. No. Contractions. No. Pain level? Yes. The person just blinked. Yeah, not too helpful. Dante, clutching his shoulder, forced his way through the crowd. Move. You're injured, Tomas said, trying to slow him down. Dante shot him a glare that could break glass. I know. I'm bleeding on. The doors to the clinic banged open. They'd called ahead, so the place looked like an emergency scene already. Lights blazing, doors wide, staff waiting. Salazar stood in the entrance, in a coat thrown over scrubs, his expression pure murder. What did I say about public gunfire while pregnant? He demanded. Adrian tried for a joke, but his voice wobbled. That feels targeted. Salazar didn't blink. It is. His finger jabbed at Dante. You... chair. I'm staying, Dante said flatly. You're leaking everywhere. I said, I'm staying. Salazar looked at Thomas. Sedate him. Dante went from stubborn to outright hostile. Absolutely not. Adrian reached for Dante's coat, fingers digging in. Sit, he said. And Dante, like some big, loyal dog, sat down without argument. Salazar just looked at them both, exasperated, beyond words. I despise this family. The next hour dragged like a punishment. Nurses and machines and endless questions. Someone took his blood pressure. Monitors beeped. Heartbeat, fetal heartbeat, movements, the whole anxious drill. Did you fall on your stomach? No. Any fluids lost? No. Bleeding? No. Cramping? A little less now. Finally, Dr. Shu, quiet, practical, peeled off her gloves and almost smiled. The baby looks fine. Everyone exhaled at once. Adrian managed 3 full seconds before bursting into tears, completely out of control. He didn't want to break down. It just happened. Dante, now stitched and bandaged, didn't even hesitate. He crossed the room and pulled Adrian into his arms, careful and fiercely gentle. Hey, Dante whispered into his hair. Hey. I hate everyone, Adrian muttered, nose still sniffly. That checks out. I'm banning conservatories. Deal. I mean it this time. I know. Dr. Shu gave them privacy as best she could. Salazar just shook his head. You two are exhausting. They weren't allowed to leave. Orders from Salazar and the specialist. Adrian got a private suite. Dante refused to leave his side, so he camped in a truly awful chair. Adrian, in a petty little way, found it satisfying. Sometime in the middle of the night, Adrian woke. He found Dante dozing upright, his head tilted back. one hand protectively on Adrian's stomach, even in sleep, still watching over him. Adrian stared at him for a long time. Then he reached out and touched the bandage on Dante's shoulder, just to see. Dante woke instantly. "How do you do that?" "Bad childhood," Adrian said dryly. Dante sat up straighter. "How do you feel?" "Sore," Adrian admitted. "Anything else?" "Irritated." "Good sign." "You were shot." "Just a graze." "You tackled me." "Yeah." "That was reckless." "I disagree." "It was really dumb and kind of romantic." Dante's sleepy smile softened the whole room. "My specialty." Adrian rolled his eyes, but couldn't hold back a shaky laugh. Then quieter. "You scared me." Dante's smile faded. He rose and sat on the edge of the bed, lowering himself carefully. "I know." I thought the words wouldn't come out. So Dante held his hand, holding tight but not too tight. "I know," he said. There was so much tenderness there, so much understanding. Adrian nearly started crying again just from pure frustration. "You're not allowed to die first," Adrian grumbled. Dante's thumb traced little circles over Adrian's knuckles. "I'll get it in writing." Notarized, Adrian sniffed. Witnessed. "Good." Dante leaned down and kissed him, slow, unhurried. Hospital air, sharp whiff of antiseptic, fear not quite gone, but the relief humming through everything. When Dante pulled back, Adrian caught at his shirt. "One more." This kiss lasted longer. Adrian relaxed into it, finally sinking into the pillows when they broke apart. "You're forgiven." "For what?" "I'll tell you later. Stay vigilant." Morning arrived like a storm named Mara. She swept in with flowers, coffee, newspapers, and a barrage of disapproval. "I leave you alone one night." "No one invited you," Adrian said, though he didn't mean it. "I birthed you. That's a standing invitation." She kissed Adrian's forehead, checked Dante's shoulder, then aimed at Tomas, lurking near the doorway. "Why is Luciano still breathing?" Tomas visibly hesitated. "Legal stuff. Complicated." "Annoying," Mara answered, dropping into a chair by the window, regal as ever. "I've decided I hate botany." Adrian snorted so hard he hurt himself. News came quickly. Luciano had been arrested, not for shooting, because let's face it, money excuses a lot. Instead, weapon possession, tax fraud, conspiracy, and more. Dante had apparently been feeding evidence to the authorities for months. The whole meeting was bait. Luciano thought he was luring his son in, but walked straight into a trap and into handcuffs. When Thomas explained this, Adrian slowly turned towards Dante. "You set him up." Dante, mangling an orange one-handed, didn't even bother looking up. "I created options." "You smug bastard." "He shot me," Dante replied, finally glancing over with a lopsided smile. "I adjusted." Adrian chucked a pillow at him. His aim was terrible. Pregnancy didn't help. The pillow hit Salazar instead, who just walked in. He looked down at it, then at Adrian. "I'm charging more," Salazar said, stone-faced. They were sent home 2 days later, clutching a list of strict rules. Less stress, no travel for 2 weeks, absolutely no armed encounters with family, full night's sleep, hydration, and quiet. Adrian read the list out loud at the lake house. "We already failed half of these." "Only half," Dante answered. "Eternal optimist," Adrian muttered, but his grin was real. That night, rain misted across the lake. Adrian bundled himself up on the terrace, warm socks, too many blankets, while Dante built a lopsided fire, refusing help. He managed it one-handed, stubbornness on full display. "You're doing it wrong," Adrian said. "I know." "Then stop. I'm persevering. Masculinity is a disease." Adrian rolled his eyes, but he didn't mind how Dante came and sat behind him anyway, arms winding around his middle with warm, careful hands. The fire snapped and the baby shifted beneath Adrian's skin. Dante's hand froze there, awed all over again by the movement, just like every time. Adrian leaned back, letting himself just rest for once. Do you think we'll ever be normal? Not a chance. Good. Why good? Adrian gazed at the endless black water, weirdly grateful for chaos. Normal is overrated, boring. Dante kissed the side of his neck. The baby kicked harder and both men laughed. Inside, the world stayed the same. Guards pacing, phones buzzing, threats lurking just out of sight. But as Adrian rested in Dante's arms, the fire crackling, their child kicking between them, he let himself start to believe that maybe, finally, survival wasn't all they had left. Maybe this was turning into living.